and welcome to the Our Anime Awards pregame show where we're doing a little bit of anime Jeopardy. I'm your host, Replay Value. Super excited to be here with our three contestants, Collapse Block, Furkle, and Orofine. We're going to get introduced to them in a second, but first, I'm going to run down the rules of how Jeopardy works. In Jeopardy, we've got 5 categories with five quotes in each category. They have point totals that our contestants can buzz in. If they get the question right, they will get those points. If they get it wrong, those points will be removed from their total. We got 25 questions, and then a final Jeopardy where they can wager as much or as little as they'd like. Whoever wins at the end of the day, I've been told, is the host of Jeopardy next year, but I might just be making that up. We're going to introduce our contestants now. Collapsed, what's up?
Hey, hi everyone. How are you doing, Replay?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fine. A bit of a hangover, but I'm fine.
All right. Well, everyone here won a round of the internal jurors. So, Collapse, what was your favorite question from your nomination game, as it were?
Well, I guess the cute girls don't cute things. I'm pretty sure I cleared that board completely on my own.
Love to hear it. All right. Next up, we got Furkle. How's it going, Fur?
Hello. It's going all right. How about you?
I'm doing great and better now that you're here. What was your favorite category from your promotion game?
That's probably hard to say. I mean, obviously, I like the ones I did well in. I mean, I like the Pokemon one just because I like Pokemon a lot. So
hell yeah,
that was a nice one.
Did they do the classic Jigglypuff from up top one?
They did, and it was very funny how it played out because I was the one who got that because I remember watching that way back like 20 years ago when I was very young and being like, this is so stupid. And then, of course, I remember that, so I see it. So like, yeah, what if it is just that? And then I guess it, and it was. So that was
absolutely amazing. All right, and last but certainly not least, we've got Orofine. How's it going, Orofine?
Hello there.
Orofine, what was your favorite category for your promotion game?
Well, my favorite category was a Sakura category, where you basically have a bunch of animation terms. And because I'm like the animation guy, it was quite easy category for me that get me a lot of points.
Great. Well, glad to hear it. We are going to launch in. I'm going to introduce our categories. First, we've got Tricky Thesaurus 2023. I have taken the titles of anime that aired in 2023 and changed them up via a thesaurus. Then we've got Films Inspired by Anime. Actually, in which I will state a statement about an anime production. Something in that statement is wrong. You can buzz in and say, actually, or what is, because as always, everything has to be framed in a question. Before and after, where it will refer to two anime. You're going to combine them together. There will be a central word that is shared by both of those anime. And then Anime Locations IRL, which is a bunch of photos, and you're going to tell us what location IRL, you're going to tell us what anime is featured in said location. Collapse Block, I believe you are our first to go. So pick whatever category and tell us where we're starting.
I'll pick anime locations IRL for 100.
I had a feeling this one was going to be popular. What anime location is this? Orofine, you buzzed in first. What anime location is
the
this?
Location or the anime itself?
The anime, I'm sorry. I misspoke.
So, what is Steins Gate?
That is correct. Steins Gate is the correct answer. This is, I believe, the radio building.
Yes, this is the Radio Kaikan building.
Orofine, you have gotten us off started. Where are we off to now?
Let's go Films Inspired by Anime 300.
Films Inspired by Anime for 300. A mega fan of Dragon Ball Z, Megalobox, Naruto, and My Hero Academia, this actor incorporated his love of anime fights into Creed 3, his directorial debut, released this past summer. Orofine, you buzzed in first.
Who is Michael B. Jordan?
That is the correct answer. Orofine off to a strong start. Did anyone here watch Creed 3? Was it good?
I did. It was pretty good, and I knew it was a celebrity that you wouldn't expect him to direct something, but I had trouble recollecting which one it was.
It happens to the best of us. The trailers looked great, and I'm a big fan of Michael B. Jordan. Orofine, you're up. You're still up. Where are we going now?
Let's go films inspired by anime 400.
Films inspired by anime for 400. The director might deny the influence, at least in how the film came about, preferring to talk about the ballet, but Perfect Blue's influence on the look, feel, and themes of this film are hard to miss. Orofine, you buzzed in first.
What is Requiem for a Dream?
That is not the anime we're looking for.
Oh.
Or excuse me, that's not the film we're looking for.
Oh, I know. Okay.
Well, unfortunately, after you've guessed, you can't guess again. Furkle or Clapsblock, are you guys going to take a stab at this one? Does not look like
we
it.
lose points, right, if we get it wrong?
You do lose points, yes.
It is 400. No, I will pass.
All right, Orofine, you want to tell us what it is?
What is Black Swan?
What?
That is the correct answer. It is Black Swan.
Like, I'm not enough of a snob film, film snob, so like I don't want to lose the points, but it's the only film that came to my mind.
You should have gone for it. All right, all of you are back to 0, but Orofine, it's still your board. Where are we going now?
Films inspired by anime 500.
Let's do it. This one might be a little bit tricky, just a warning. Styled after the 1996 release of Birdie the Mighty and how the utter destruction of a city might look, this 2013 film relaunched a popular franchise in cinemas across the globe. Orofine, once again, first on the buzzer.
What is Man of Steel?
That is the answer we are looking for. Orofine, that's a fat 500 back in your pocket.
Okay, let's go Anime Locations 200.
Anime Locations for 2. What anime is represented by this photo? What is the real life location of this a staircase, we'll say? All right, doesn't look like anyone's going to take a stab at it. I thought that this one was going to be a freebie. What is your name?
Oh.
I haven't seen your name in 7 years.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it definitely is a small photo. No argument there. All right, Orofine, still your board.
Okay, let's go. I'm actually 200.
Actually for 200. Satoshi Mizukami's iconic manga Pluto finally got adapted into anime this year. It is a reimagining of Astro Boy's The Greatest Robot on Earth arc, with Europol robot Geist attempting to figure out the cause behind a series of robot and human deaths around the world. Collapsed Block, you buzzed in first.
Actually, who is Naoki Urasawa?
Yeah. So it's Naoki Urasawa's iconic manga, not Satoshi Mizukami. All right. Collapse, that puts you on the board. Where are we off to now?
Actually for 100.
Actually for 1. If you like rom-com harems, you won't be able to beat a little anime following the adventures of Ijo Rentaro, who is blessed with the fate of having 99 soulmates that he'll meet in his high school years. This includes Kasuri, a senior obsessed with making drugs, Shizuka, who speaks using text-to-speech on her phone via her favorite book, and Nano, who is this host's favorite. Furkle, you buzzed in first.
What is 100, not 99?
That is correct. It's 100 GFs. And that puts you on the board as well. So, Furkle, now with your control for the first time, where do you want to
go? Let's see. Let's go, actually 300.
Actually for 300. Oshinoko is a fun look into Japan's creative industries, reality TV, and idol performances in Season 1, masking the true intent of our main character, Aqua, who, as the lone reincarnator in our story, has set out to get vengeance against his father, who had killed both his idol and mother. Collapse, you buzzed in first.
Actually, who is... there is another reincarnation.
That is correct. There is not only one reincarnator.
I want to say actually Oshinoko is not fun.
Okay. I mean, listen, given some of the subject matter, I can't really disagree that it might not be fun all the time. All right. Collapse, that was you. So that puts you up to 500. Where do you want to go now?
I'm actually for 400.
I'm actually for 4. The first time Vikings came to the farm, they killed Einar's father and his village, or destroyed his village. The second time, it was Einar's turn to be captured and sold into slavery on a farm where he would meet, struggle with, and eventually befriend Thorfinn. Vinland Saga Season 2 from Studio Bones truly is an exceptional outing from the whole team. Collapse Block, getting in on the actually train.
Actually, who is Studio Mappa?
That is correct. It is Studio Mappa, not Studio Bones. Now I'll bump you up to take the lead at 900. Are we finishing the category, Collapsed?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, 500. From Studio Perot, Hyperpolice is a world in which monsters and humans live together. Sasahara Natsuki is a bounty hunter who is a cat beast. Joined by a pair of werewolves and a fox demon, Natsuki tries to protect the less powerful humans while doing her best to make a living in I already said it's Hyperpolice. But it doesn't look like anyone's going to take a stab. You would think, Hyperpolice, very popular, definitely a current anime, totally isn't from the 1990s. It doesn't look like anyone's going to take a stab. Natsuki is only half cat beast. She is also half human, and that clears actually.
Do I still have the board? Then?
It's still your board, Collapse.
Before and after for 100.
Before and after for 100. After entering a seemingly idyllic but elite school, one student soon finds that the truth is very different, with students ranked A through D in their likelihood of being able to kill their extraterrestrial teacher. Orofine, you buzzed in.
What is Assassination Classroom of the Elite?
That is correct. Orofine, back at it.
I was so confused on the ordering of stuff there, because that was the first thing I thought of, but I thought it was the opposite way.
Yeah. No, you guys aren't wrong. It's definitely reversed. I didn't write this category. You can't blame me.
Okay.
Editor, put whoever wrote before and after on screen now. Orofine, it's your board.
Should be in reverse. Right. Okay, let's go before and after 200.
Before and after for 2. An idol-turned artist struggles with the dual pressures of the entrance exam to the prestigious Tokyo University of the Arts, as well as a mysterious doppelganger. Doesn't look like anyone's going to buzz in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What is Perfect Blue Period?
Perfect Blue. I was figuring Blue Period, but I didn't figure out the other one.
What does
Even though, it's obvious.
What does idol turned artist mean?
Again, I didn't write this question. This is so you'd have to ask editor. Please, once again, put whoever wrote this on screen.
I thought even an idol literally became a painter. I'm like, what anime is that?
Yeah, you're not wrong. All right, we're gonna go on to wherever Orofine wants to go next. We go into 300.
Let's go anime locations for 300.
Anime locations for how much?
300.
300. What anime location is this? Collapsed Block, you did buzz in first.
What is Anohane?
That is the anime we were looking for, and that'll give you back control of the board. Collapsed, where do you want to go now?
Anime locations 400.
Anime locations for 400. What anime is represented by this image? Orofine, you buzzed in first.
I've seen 5 million.
What is Melancholy of Karasuzumiya?
So that is not the answer we have, but I think I'm willing to give it to you because I definitely remember seeing this in Melancholy of Karasuzumiya. If Furkle or Collapse Block want to buzz in with something that's a little bit more specific to this exact crossing, I will. Maybe we give everyone points. Okay, if
yeah, I will. So I have too many answers to think it's correct.
You're punting? All right.
Yeah, the only thing... I know it's not specific to this crossing, but the only thing that makes me... the probably incorrect but kind of funny answer would be crossing time, but that's what you're going for.
I don't have that for this one. The one that the category writer had in mind for this one was 5 centimeters per second. But you know what, Orofine? I'm going to give you the points. This host rules that Melancholy is an acceptable answer.
Okay. Then let's finish this category. Anime locations 500.
Okay. This one, I promise, only has one correct answer. What is this? What anime is this in? Collapse block.
What is Haikyuu?
That is the answer we were looking for. that is undeniably a Haikyuu face. Alrighty. Collapsed, where do you want to go now?
Films inspired by Anime 100.
Inspired by Ghost in the Shell, this 1999 film by the Wachowskis has cemented itself as one of the most culturally impactful sci-fi films of the last 100 years. Furkle, you buzzed in first.
What is The Matrix?
That is the answer we were looking for. Fur, where do you want to go now?
Let's go for Tricky Thesaurus 100.
Yes, finally, my favorite category. Zombie Mishap. These are all anime that aired this year. Collapsed, you buzzed in first.
What is Song 100?
No.
What is Undead Unluck?
Oh,
Furkle is right on. It is Undead Unluck.
I get it, but too late.
Yeah. These are a little bit tricky. They're a little bit tricky and fun, in my opinion. All right, for where are we off to now?
Tricky Thesaurus 200. Sorry, 200.
Let's run it. Leap from Sloucher. Fur, you're first.
What is Skip to Loafer?
That is right on. That'll bring you up to 500. You want to keep the gravy train rolling?
Yeah, let's go for 300 now.
Let's do it. Phony. Orofine, you buzzed in first.
What is Kurikuri?
That is not the answer we're looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Fur, you taking a stab?
Yes. What is Liar Liar?
That is the anime we were looking for. Liar Liar.
Watch fucking Liar Liar.
So I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. I wasn't a fan. I made the mistake of watching it. Fur, do you want to go to 400?
Yeah, let's go for 400.
Let's run it. And that is, whoa. That's the daily double. So, Fur, you can wager as much as you want on this one.
I see. I'm just going to be a coward and do 400.
We're staying with the category amount. I respect it. Fur, you are the only one who can answer this. So take your time.
Okay. All right.
What anime, Tricky Thesaurus, Great Badge? I'll give you a small hint. It's getting a season 2, I believe, next season, or at the time of this airing, currently airing. You want to take a stab? I mean, you're losing the points no matter what, so you might as well make a guess.
I know. I just can't think of anything, unfortunately.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What is High Card?
Oh.
Yeah,
For some reason, I kept thinking of Medal instead of a card.
Yeah, that one was savage. I'm not surprised that one wasn't grabbed. All right, should we go to 500, or do you want to mix it up for?
Let's go for 500.
Let's kill the category. Pass. Anyone can guess on this one. Ooh, Furkle.
What is Overtake?
Yes. Let's go. A little bit of overtake action for you in the final category, in the final slot. All right, first, still your board, and that brings you right back up to 900. Where do you want to go now?
Before and after 300?
Before and after for 300. A sports club of middle school girls find themselves in an post-apocalyptic wasteland where they learn the fundamental essence of humanity as well as its errors, and also table tennis. Collapsed.
What is Scorching Ping Pong Gakko Gurashi?
So you're not wrong.
Oh,
Can you...
Scorching Ping Pong School Life?
Oh, no. That is, unfortunately, I think at this point you have lost the points. Furkle or Orofine, you going to take a stab? Orofine.
What is Scorching Ping Pong Girls Last Tour?
That is correct. That's the answer we were looking for.
Oh no.
Yeah, so you had the wrong post-apocalypse, unfortunately. The term wasteland was doing a lot of heavy lifting, if you ask me.
People really need to pick less vague settings, like, oh, post-apocalyptic, I wonder where it is.
Damn. Again, editor, put whoever wrote this category on screen now. Or if you want to take, where do we want to go
Okay,
now?
let's go before and after 400.
Let's do it. An average girl is whisked away by a strange and cheery redhead into a magical alternate reality called Pure Rhythm, where the two learn and compete in the harsh world of gymnastics. Okay, doesn't seem like we've got any action happening. Meanwhile, I'm pulling up. Oh, it's Assipender. Assipender wrote this category. All right. Well, no one is going for this one. The answer we were looking for was backflip flappers. No one wants to react to that at all.
I don't
Just
remember
dead silence.
flip flappers enough to recall the pure rhythm thing.
Fair
No,
enough.
I get flip floppers, but I didn't get the second one.
All right, and that brings Orphean. You got a coin flip here
Okay,
between
let's go
200 and
films
500.
inspired 200.
Films inspired by anime for 200, directly influenced by the rotating hallways in Paprika. This film, scored by Hans Zimmer, became synonymous with a bass-boosted bwom. Orphean, you did buzz in first.
What is Inception?
That is correct. All right, what a close game. Whoever gets this 500 will take the lead, which is what we like to see. 500 before and after to kill our category before we go into Final Jeopardy. Brought to you by, we have no sponsor, that was a joke. Jumping back and forth between present day and the future, a pink-haired protagonist gets inadvertently dragged into the world of duelists, where they use their car-based superpowers to attempt to win the Rose Bride. What two anime could this possibly be? For those watching at home, our contestants have no idea, it would seem. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to guess that you guys all knew half of it, but maybe not the other half. And that first half was, what is Concrete Revolutionary Girl Utena?
Oh, Concrete Revolution. This is how it goes. Okay.
Where is Assy to answer for his crimes against before and after from the minds of our
there is just
contestants?
too many anime with jumping back and forth between timelines, and I feel like there wasn't enough concreteness about Concrete Revolution.
Good one, Orphean. Good one. All right. And that brings us to Final Jeopardy, the category of which is obvious bait. Our contestants have already put in their wagers, and so now, to the question, this show featured a female lead who winds up, after defeating the top-ranked fighter at the school, a tall man with poofy hair, engaged to a girl as a result of being the best fighter. The fiancé enjoys spending time taking care of plants, and her male family member is an antagonist, which is apparent right from the get-go. There's a ritual that both participants must recite before a duel may be official. The winner must knock off a piece of gear from the opposing fighter. What anime is this? You guys have 30 seconds. Best
Can
of
you give us
luck.
more time? This is a long-ass question to read.
Take your time. We don't actually have to do just 30 seconds. Our contestants have all put in their wagers and their guesses. So we begin with Furkle. Furkle wagered 101 and guessed what is Gundam Witch from Mercury, which is the correct answer. Which brings Fur up to 1001. You might be wondering, what is the wrong answer? What could this have possibly have been bait for? And Collapsed will tell you, because they guessed Revolutionary Girl Utena and wagered 300, which brings them down to 1,000, which means that Furkle is in the lead if Orofine guessed incorrectly. Orofine wagered 1,100 points. So this is for all the marbles, folks. And congratulations are in order. because Orofine guessed Gundam Witch of Mercury, which means they go up to 2,300, meaning they win our little round of anime Twitch Jeopardy. Congratulations to Orofine.
There is no way it's gonna be Utena because, like, the name.
I knew it wasn't Utena because of the tall man with fluffy hair, and I remember the one from Utena was straight-haired, but I couldn't think of a single male character with fluffy hair that fit the description.
The funny thing is I haven't watched Utena, so I was like, what is the bait? This just is describing Gundam Witch of Mercury, but I don't know what the bait is, so I'm just going to put it in and be like, okay.
Orofine, how you feeling about the W?
Well, I'm feeling like I got lucky with some questions, but still the win is a win, so it's great to win, I guess.
A win is a win. Don't let anybody tell you any different. Well, folks, that is it for us for our Anime Awards Jeopardy pregame show. Hope you enjoy the rest of the awards. We'll be seeing you shortly. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, peace out.
Hello and welcome to the 2023 r/Anime Awards. I'm here at the red carpet, and the mood is simply electrifying as we take in the sights and the sounds and the glitz and the glamour. And, most importantly, it's all coming to us live from Hot Shop Living Room. I'm here at the red carpet where I'll be chatting with some of the subreddit stars to hear what they have to say about this year's show. I have to ask, what was your favorite anime of 2023?
That would probably go to Pluto. I've always been a fairly long-time fan of the manga and just Anime Boy in general. So to finally see that adaptation come out and for it to have been as good as it was, minus a few issues, it definitely comes out on top.
My favorite anime of 2023 so far has got to be Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. I already can't wait to rewatch it on Blu-ray once all of those are out.
This anime had me worried when it was first announced and I learned which studio would be animating it. But as soon as episode 1 aired and I saw how much Studio Ghibli went above and beyond the adaptation, I can say without a doubt that the 100 Girlfriends Who Really Love You is my favorite anime of the year.
My favorite anime of 2023 was Vinland Saga. I think it had the most powerful message of a show that I watched in 2023, and it's definitely been on my mind the longest.
My favorite anime of 2023 is actually a theatrical OVA. It was Sound Euphonium Ensemble Contest. It was so wonderful to see everyone from the Euphonium franchise once more, and it was such a fun and fantastic OVA that it just truly brought that feeling of Euphonium is back.
What's been your favorite thing to see on the subreddit recently?
Thing on the sub this year, I've had a lot of fun participating in discussion threads for rewatches and seasonals alike. Shout out to the Gintama rewatch for quite possibly being my favorite rewatch I've ever participated in as a first-timer.
My favorite thing on the subreddit in the last year has probably been episode discussions. There's always just so much great jokes and great tidbits, insights, and theory crafting that goes on that just keeps me coming back.
My favorite thing on the subreddit recently, over the past year, would probably be the favorite genre, favorite film polls. Just in terms of it being fairly entertaining, seeing the difference between what I would have put for a lot of the top 10, top 20s compared to what actually ended up.
Now, who do you think is going to win jury and public anime of the year?
I have no clue about how the jury side of the vote will go, but for the public vote, I'd guess the last part of Attack on Titan based on how much its reception blows everything else on the sub out of the water. Or maybe Oshinoko or whatever season of Jobless Reincarnation aired this year. I think those two were quite popular as well.
If I were to guess, the public would probably choose Frieren at the Funeral or Frieren Beyond Journey's End. And as for the jury, I'm guessing Heavenly Delusion would be their pick.
The jury, I think you've got a couple options. Heavenly Delusion, Skip to Loafer, OniMaru, Gundam, Vinland Saga. Yeah, it could really just go a lot of different ways, so I'm not too sure yet. For public, I'd honestly be surprised if it didn't go to something like Jujutsu Kaisen, Attack on Titan, or Oshinoko. Maybe Demon Slayer is an option as well.
A controversial take for maybe Anime of the Year. I think it's going to be a full idol sweep, with the public going for Oshinoko, and the jury brought to the table 2.5 idol shows, and I'm not entirely sure which they'll pick, but I'm thinking one of those.
I believe the jury award for Anime of the Year 2023 will go to OniMaru, I'm Now Your Sister. It was such a critically beloved title, both in Japan and internationally, with such fluid animation, such love from the animators working on it, and everyone involved, that it just becomes a critical favorite. I believe the public is going to vote for Oshinoko to become Anime of the Year for 2023. Oshinoko resonated both inside the anime community and outside, like very few shows have done, both in Japan and internationally. It's such a fantastic popular show that I can't see anything else taking a popular vote.
And that's a wrap on Red Carpet. Let's move on to the awards.
Time, or rather, I might have preferred to get your voicemail and permanently disconnect the line. Hope it isn't an imposition, say not at all. But I would rather get drinks with your new man than try to explain why I call. I can call back when it's over, but I know that you know it's never really over. And we both just get older, but I know that you know it's never really over. About the time I start giving myself the creeps. That's amore. Full moon hitting me in your face like you. Metaphorically, you're the only thing that I can't erase. I call back when it's over, but I know that you know it's never really over. And we both just get older, but I know that you know it's never really over.
Hello, everyone. Not sure how many of you will get that reference, but welcome back to another year of the awards. We've been going strong since 2016, which is all sorts of ridiculous. I mean, who knew that a group of rowdy little upstarts could sustain something like this for so long? I mean, the awards were born out of, like, Yuri on Ice, of all things, but that's a story for another time. For those of you who don't know, I'm Kamimashita, prolific and very notable YouTuber, and more importantly, your host of the 2023 R Anime Awards. Before we continue with the festivities, along with our wonderful guests, here is a short explainer of the awards. We have a number of different categories to celebrate the best anime that the year has had to offer in different respects. Whether you care about striking animation sequences, the latest Kirara adaptation, or laughing until it hurts, we have a way to showcase it. They're grouped into genre, character, production, and main awards. For each category, there are 2 possible winners, the public award and the jury award. The public vote is purely a popular vote. We open a poll on the subreddit, and whatever gets the most votes wins. For the jury award, we recruited members from the subreddit through a simple form, and in a weird anime version of the Stanford Prison Experiment, we made them watch absolutely every nomination and generate a ranking. This process starts back in like October, so even though it's months of hard work and discussion and a lot of hand-wringing, We think like a Hannah Montana song, it's the best of both worlds. Through the public vote, we can see what captured the attention of the community at large, and through the jury, we can let those diamonds in the rough shine through rather than being forgotten. But that's enough for me and my outdated references, at least for now. Here is the best part of the show, where all the salt begins. Take it away! As anime fans, I think it's safe to say that many of our first loves involve action series in some way. In my generation, it was catching a glimpse of Inuyasha or The Big O when I should have gone to bed. And although Z to me means Z fighter rather than a generation, I have to let the kids have their Hero Akas and their Jujutsu Kaisens too. Because after all, whether it's the palace invasion or the Shibuya incident, we love watching it all the same. Here are your nominees for Best Action of 2023.
And the jury and the public winner is Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2.
So what I usually say after the winner's revealed is that, oh, that's not very surprising, is it? Right? But for me, this actually is kind of surprising because all I've ever heard about is how like the production seems to be falling apart and how this season isn't as good as the last season. Are you surprised by this, Ina?
No. So I'm very surprised by you saying that you're surprised. I feel like Jujutsu Kaisen is has been the like that. It's been the anime like fandom's baby for the like half of the year.
Sarah, was this pretty far and away the front runner when you first started, or did it come more gradually?
See, I'm not actually surprised that it won for both. Even though I hadn't watched it, I heard a lot of things about it, and a lot of jury members were pretty positive on it when we started. Yeah, so a lot of jury members were pretty positive on it going into it. And then after everything was watched, there was some discussion on like first and second place and how that would go. But overall, people are pretty positive with Jujutsu Kaisen.
Okay, well, Ina, explain why you were not surprised. Like, what's so good about Jujutsu Kaisen?
Jujutsu Kaisen, I feel like, is the dictionary definition of battle shonen. The entire second half of season 2 was fight after fight after fight. No room for even characterization and dialogue. Like once the Shibuya incident started, no beats were taken. It was just from one fight to the next. No air to breathe, no room, which I think is a big critique that people have for Jujutsu Kaisen, but if you're looking for action, it's season 2. That's why I'm not surprised.
Now, Sarah, I see that Scott Pilgrim Takes Off is in second place. That's loosely based on the movie, right? But it takes a different direction. Did y'all have to watch the movie for the jury?
Yes, the person who recommended Scott Pilgrim suggested that we watch the movie ahead of time, so the jury members did watch it. And so it did come into discussion when we talked about the show and what things it does a bit differently.
What do you think about Scott Pilgrim, Ina?
I really, really enjoyed it. I think, as Sarah said, that the show just enhanced a lot of the characters. It honestly gave so much depth that the movie didn't, because the movie, of course, it's like you only get to spend so much time with like such a big cast, but Yeah, and even the fighting, quote unquote, in Scott Pilgrim defined like their characters in a way, if that makes sense. And I don't know. Yeah, you don't need to watch the movie to watch Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, but it definitely makes it better.
Well, see, Scott Pilgrim made me realize that I'm stupid because so the movie, right? It's mostly about Scott. I mean, he's the main character, right?
Yeah.
So going into the show, I kind of expected that to be the same. So I was looking forward to more Scott. But the problem is Scott is like a big time asshole, right? Like that's his like whole thing.
Mhm.
So when it ended up being less about Scott, my first initial reaction was one of, oh man, I'm a little disappointed. When it rather should have been, oh wow, they're really fleshing out these other characters. Ramona is more than just your standard manic pixie dream girl now.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look at it from that lens, I really appreciate it for what that is.
Yeah, like I will say that the second half kind of felt a little rushed in a way, but overall I did enjoy it.
Did you have any questions for Sarah about any of the other nominees?
Demon Slayer's at the bottom, huh?
Where it belongs.
Yes.
I will I do have my qualms with Demon Slayer. I even have a video saying like I have issues with it, but I feel like where it makes up for the bad stuff, it is in the action.
Yeah. So with Demon Slayer, with the jury, it got a lot of praise for its action scenes and how like dynamic they were and how interesting they were. Some of the criticisms that some people had were with the new characters and how they didn't really stand out as much, especially compared to previous ones. Some people felt that there was like less of an emotional impact when it came to those kinds of fights, especially compared to other entries in the category.
I definitely see that.
Thank you so much for coming back. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you for having me too.
All right, that's it. We're moving on to the next category.
Prepare for trouble.
And make it double.
To protect our world from more isekai.
To unite all people under Makoto Shinkai.
To run away from zombies, androids, and Trigun Stampede.
To explore new regions with Dr. Stone and Golden Kamui.
Shaw.
Tay.
Team Adventure blasts off at 24 frames per second.
And now here's Dr. Wilson for his annual check-in.
Wilson, that's right! To celebrate the thrills that soar on high, in worlds where heroes quest beneath the sky, adventurers unite like stars agleam as we embark on this grand quest, a dream! In the realm of anime where tales take flight, we honor adventures, each a radiant light. So come, let's journey through the fading night to uncover the best, heart soaring in the light. Here are your nominees for Best Adventure of 2023.
私は今本当に空を飛んでいるぞ。いつまでもガキみたくはしゃいでんじゃねえぞメスライオン。
集中しよう。
And the jury winner is Suzume. And the public winner is Mushoku Tensei Season 2.
Now, when you're taking a look at these winners, I mean, Suzume, I think it's kind of interesting that it's classified as adventure here. Do you think of it as an adventure? I mean, they do travel all across Japan, and it has that kind of feeling, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was one. I think that it's such a good example of a movie or TV show that doesn't feel like an adventure at first, but then when you actually think about it, the content is like an adventure across Japan. So it's something that when I saw it among the nominees, I was like, you know what, that's actually a really good pick. Like, that's really cool to see. Especially because I think a lot of times when we think of adventure series, we think of like a fantasy setting. And so many of these nominees are just like adventuring through the different parts of Japan, which feels kind of refreshing in a way because you never really think of that. So I really like Suzume when I saw it. I thought it was a really cool movie. I was about to call it a series because, like, I don't know, the Shinkai cinematic universe, but no, Suzume it's a great film. I had a lot of fun with it, and I did enjoy the adventure through Japan and the different types of natural disasters they had, as well as the journey for the really adorable cat mascot on social media. So there's a lot of adventures going on. So I think that's a really cool pick.
Arum, how like fiercely battled was the top slot? Was it the kind of situation where any one of these top 4 could just be switched and it would make sense, or was Suzume pretty clear and far away the best from the beginning?
Unquestioned. It was completely unquestioned. The only other series that we all agreed on was Golden Kamuy. Everything else was, I mean, you know, I don't think any of us really hated it in the nominees, but Suzume, it was just far and away. We at the very beginning of the awards, we said, "Oh yeah, we definitely want to consider this," and nobody ever said pretty much anything bad about it the entire time.
That's cool. Can I ask what do you think made it Suzume the picked over Golden Kamuy?
That is a great question, and I think it's really the humanity that was on display in the movie with each of those, you know, the little side characters that we meet on the journey. You know, we see, this movie is about Suzume's arc, but we also have, you know, all these, you know, very fleshed out, you know, very real feeling people that aren't necessarily going on the journey with Suzume, but are part of that journey, and that really impressed themselves on the audience more than any of the side characters of Golden Kamuy.
That makes sense. I agree with the humanity aspect of it. I think there are a lot of really interesting dynamics that get explored in a very short amount of time, so I'm in agreement with the jury on that one.
Now, moving on, we have the kind of classic, we actually haven't seen this very much in the other categories this year, which is kind of a greatness. Surprising.
The Great Divide.
The Great Divide. So we've got public winner, jury loser. Although, you know, obviously no one is a loser. These are all great shows. They're all blah, blah, blah. What do you think the public sees in Mushoku Tensei that the jury didn't?
Can I first say this is my favorite result is jury 8, public 1, or vice versa. The vice versa happens mostly because we feel like the public hasn't seen as many of the jury nominees or winners. But jury 8, public 1, always my favorite result.
It's a classic.
Or is it 9? It's a classic. What could you say more about Mushoku Tensei that hasn't been said?
Yeah.
On
not
all
much
spectrum.
to Mushoku you.
No Mushoku you. Yeah. You know, there is a lot to be said for isekai anime that, you know, make up so much of the seasonal anime that we watch. And, you know, Mushoku Tensei has a reputation for being, you know, one of the OGs. I think a lot of people are really happy to see the story getting explored and seeing more seasons of it. And, you know, even if it doesn't look as great as season 1 did, it still looked pretty good. And, you know, it had some ups and downs this arc. I'm trying to not make a pun about ED, but like you can't avoid it. That is the plot of this one. So, you know, there's ups and downs, but at its core, there are some like very human characters and very human interactions that I think resonates with people. I know I'm personally probably not the best person to sing the praises of Mushoku Tensei, but like even I will go from like watching one episode and thinking it's not good to then going to another episode and saying, you know, that's pretty heartfelt. So I think if it manages to continue that heartfelt feeling throughout for people, then it's a really strong series.
Well, I don't want the public to think that we're just prudes who hate it on principle. I know that myself and at least a couple other members of the jury are fans of Mushoku Tensei, but it was just this particular season, we felt a lot of it wasn't done well, particularly in the middle. You know, it had a very strong start, a very strong end, and then just the middle, episodes like 4 to 8 were just not it at all, very meandering, not really progressing the plot, not really doing anything with the characters. There's, you know, romance later on that is much better, but definitely there's a lot that just wasn't doing it for us. And so ultimately the jury was kind of all agreed that it could fall towards the bottom.
I think we've come up to the end of our segment. I want to thank both of you for speaking with me. It's been a great time.
It's been an adventure. Thank you for having me.
We are so happy to know that our film, put together by assembling a cast and crew that represent the pinnacle of Japanese talent, with director Makoto Shinkai at its center, has reached people all over the world. We hope that audiences all over the world will enjoy our next work too, Genki Kawamura. Thank you on behalf of the awards for bringing everyone together and making something so wonderful. After 7 years of writing all these introductions, I realized I've just been saying the same thing over and over. So I think for comedy, what we're going to do is I'm just going to demonstrate the concept of comedy. Why can't Naruto watch scary movies? He's too sensitive. Huh? What kind of shoes does Naruto wear? Sneakers. Huh? Okay, how about this? Madam Web. Here are your best comedy nominees for 2023.
戦国さんごめん携帯置きっぱにしていやー三玉様のおかげで生活がすげえ快適になったよな
レクイエムを聞きとこしえの眠りに沈むがいい
どこからどう見てもハッピーで愉快な父親だ
クソダサいなえる
行きますなら
I have it on the mind because the pod just did an episode on it.
I was wondering if you like did that on purpose, knowing that.
Okay, announce the winners. Pock, listen to Pock.
Sorry. You go first, Panic.
Oh, me? What was it?
No, it's your turn. Yeah.
Oh, but what was I supposed to say? What was the full
I'll
line?
fucking do it. And the jury winner is Uncle from Another World. All right, now go, Panic.
And the public winner is Spy X Family Season 2.
Spy X Family, that's right. Good year for comedy, I think. I kind of want to talk about Uncle from Another World because I didn't get to watch it because it was so scuffed. You know, it wasn't some kind of big delay or something.
So it came out summer 2022, and then the studio said, "Oh, whoopsie! Looks like everyone in the studio just died of COVID. I guess we're going to postpone this magically for 6 months." So it actually came out in 2023, technically, I guess.
We're all about technicalities here. Yeah, I don't like. I find it so surprising because when I first saw the key visual or whatever, it horrified me. I'm not watching this. But is it actually good? Like, is it funny? Like, is it an isekai?
I would say so. Yeah, it's one of those isekai that we only get one of these every few years, where it actually has a new take on doing subversive humor in the isekai genre, because obviously now, like most isekais or these, reincarnation stories or whatever, they all like to be self-aware and be like, oh, whoa, it's just like one of those isekai stories. I'm in another world, crazy. But this one presents basically like a second person view. This guy has come back from his isekai adventure and now he is showing it to others and they're kind of reacting to it and living through it vicariously.
Oh, so it's not actually set in the other world. It's in our world.
Yeah.
Right. So he will just offhandedly mention some big heroic thing he did because he doesn't care about it at all. And the nephew will ask to see it, and he has a magic power to like show what he did. And everybody is stunned by his feats. Meanwhile, I think his only goal ever was to, I don't remember
what his goal was either.
Yeah, he never cared about meeting anybody or making friends or like living in the world. It was just to get home, I think. Because he wanted to play more video games.
Which is convenient because he's also extremely ugly.
I mean, you don't have to tell me.
Like they show us that he's not like conventionally attractive in any way, but the way the people in this fantasy world treat him is like everybody calls him an orc face. The first people he meets want to kill him for how ugly he is. Like they lay it on thick.
Jake, is this along the same lines of what the jury thought? Was it kind of like, a unique take on the isekai genre? What else really appealed to you about the show?
In Uncle from Another World, it is a good example of what we could call like a frame story, where the actual isekai part is in the past and we're viewing it through Uncle's memories. But part of the story also takes place in the real world, where Uncle is talking with his nephew and his female friend Takafumi and Sumika. And we felt that it struck a really good balance with showing like the good bits. And part of the thing about framing it like that is that we can kind of cut out some of the crust from the story. And it really focuses on like showing like the good parts of the narrative that are funny. And both the characters in the real world, with the uncle in particular, but also the nephew, as well as like the elf and the ice girl, were pretty compelling characters. It started off really strong. Like the first episode, we get introduced to the elf, who's a tsundere, but critically, Uncle doesn't know about that character archetype because he was sent canonically to that world before Evangelion came out. So he thinks
it was after Eva came out, but he doesn't realize that Asuka is a tsundere.
Yeah, he's aware of Asuka and just thinks that her and Kaji is a perfect couple.
It's like a weird meta element compared along with it. It's great. Now, I like our rankings just because, I mean, maybe this will come off as a little like elitist and whatever, but like Spy Family, good show, fine show, right? I was talking to Myrna the other day, and we were like, Spy Family, it's like a Marvel movie, right? It'll get like a 90 on Rotten Tomatoes, but Rotten Tomatoes isn't based off of like overall quality. It's based off of like how many people think it's above a 5 out of 10, right? Like it's good. You can't argue that it's not good, but it's not like cool. It's not like creative and like out there, you know. I want something that'll grip me. But at the end of the day, you know, it's great watching Anya and her antics. Don't you guys agree?
Right. Sure. Although I will say, I actually heavily disagree with what you said early on when you said that this was a good year for comedy.
But I heavily disagree with
you. Yes, but no.
Well, you're right about Spy X Family. I don't disagree that Spy X Family is a fine show. It makes sense that it won the public. But I feel like this was a bad year for comedy because every year you would expect at least one comedy to break through and be, you know, a widely discussed show. I mean, 2022 was an incredible year. We had Bocchi, we had the first season of Spy X Family, we had Dress Up Darling, we had Do It Yourself, we had so many just high profile shows that were also comedies. This year, I mean, we're kind of feasting on crumbs here. Like we got some sequels, Spy X Family, Konosuba, the spinoff, although it wasn't, you know, like a grand return for Konosuba this year, unfortunately. Horimiya was fine. Urusei Yatsura is a remake, so there wasn't a lot of, and the other stuff, it's like there wasn't a lot of presence from them. You know, like I don't think a lot of people were saying, "Oh yeah, 100 Girlfriends, that's like anime of the year right there." Although I might contend so because I love it a lot.
It's extremely funny, but yeah, it has a way of keeping people away, I think, and not see the comedy very much.
It has been a lovely conversation. Had a great time talking with y'all in BB-8 and C-3PO. And I want to thank you for coming by.
I'm just disappointed that the actual best comedy, Spy Classroom, wasn't represented here. What a bunch of frauds.
Well, I'll talk to someone about that.
All right, thank you.
Spy Classroom isn't Spy X Family.
No, they have nothing in common aside from being spies. I guess.
Also, not Classroom of the Elite
and having hot goth girlfriends.
Classroom of the Elite is a different show.
Also, yes.
What?
Yeah.
Too many
Don't speak that
classrooms,
na-
too many
Don't speak that
spies.
show's name in my presence.
We're moving on with the show.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Tootaroo.
I hope you enjoyed that segment. It was a lot of fun to do, especially the jokes at the beginning. But what isn't a joke is that we actually received a message from Yuichi Fukushima, animation producer at Cloverworks for Spy Family. Thank you for watching Spy Family Season 2 and giving us this award. It is a great honor to receive the award for Best Comedy. On behalf of all the staff, I would like to give you my thanks. You may be aware, but this anime was produced in collaboration with Wit Studio. Wada-san and Nakatake-san of Wit Studios wanted to make Tatsuya Endo sensei's original work into an even greater project that could be worked on sustainably over a long time frame, and thus settled on the style of a joint production, where we received an invitation to join and Cloverworks entered the project as well. I am personally so happy that the honest efforts of the hardworking cast and crew, led by director Furuhashi, within this unique structure and complicated production style have been recognized and appreciated. I hope that you all continue to support Spy Family in the future as well. Once again, thank you so much for this wonderful award. No, thank you, Fukushima-san. I think fans can kind of get tunnel vision sometimes on the production side of things, so it's nice to get a reminder that collaboration is alive and well and key to a lot of our works that we really love. Thank you once again. It took me some time to truly grasp the diverse nature of drama. It's not merely witnessing heartbreak or defeat on a grand scale. Drama, I discovered, can unfold in the most unexpected places and in the subtlest of moments. It's about the journey of self-discovery amidst the mundane chores of farming, or the struggle to tame one's inner demons until achieving a harmonious musical crescendo. Let's delve into the myriad ways it can manifest, from the complexities of identity in the everyday life to the triumphs of mastering one's passions. Here are your nominees for Best Drama of 2023.
The winner of the jury vote is Bang Dream, It's My Go. And the winner of the public vote is Vinland Saga Season 2. So, my first thought upon seeing this is, hell yeah, Vinland Saga Season 2. I voted for this one. Oh my god, I love Vinland Saga so very much. And Season 2 is so fascinating. It's the farm arc, and it's what takes the series in a totally new, just completely contrasting direction to season 1, which is very, it's very battle shonen, but Vikings. It's nonstop violence. It's war. It's all this. And then season 2, without spoiling too much, I will say it is the season where we take several steps back and Thorfinn says, wait a minute, war is bad, actually. And it takes the series in such an unexpected direction, and it's so wonderful. I love everything about Vinland Saga, honestly. But I tell you what, I have not seen Bang Dream, It's My Go. Tell me a little bit about Bang Dream.
Yeah, certainly. So this is Bang Dream, It's My Go is technically the 4th season of Bang Dream, but this one is standalone. It doesn't require, having seen the first 3 seasons. It's a focus on a new cast, a new band, and it's a very personal drama of characters coming from this understandable, genuine place about where they are just these very broken people. I struggle to call any of the MyGo characters like well-adjusted social people, but they are relatable, they're understandable, they're flawed. And I think it's just a really gripping personal drama of how these characters struggle with issues in their lives. They have to learn about places where they belong. And one of the characters likes penguins, which is always a big bonus to any show.
Now we see the truth comes out. At the same time, as I mentioned in the intro, it's such a boon of drama that it can come in so many forms. Upon hearing that description of Bang Dream by Kanzion, what do you think? Are you interested in seeing something like that? This kind of like mishmash of these flawed protagonists trying to make their way.
I can honestly see how this would be such a gold mine for drama, because especially in the past few years, I feel like there have been so many series which have told so many good stories out of trying to form a band or trying to form a musical group. One of them actually being Oshinoko, which is, of course, also one of the nominees, didn't quite get the win, was very close in the public vote. But like at the top of my head, I'm thinking like Oshinoko, Bocchi the Rock, ya boy Kung Ming, all great examples of anime that have told really good stories, through the lens of like trying to form a band or a musical group or something like that. It's just, I feel like it is such a gold mine of potential stories, potential drama, potential comedy. Just about anything you could want is there.
Hey, Kens, this is a natural part of the conversation. Can you explain exactly how the jury was this year? Was it really tough trying to argue these shows, or was it really Bang Dream from the get-go?
I think this was one of the more stacked categories of the year. Even when I just like look at the list, I see 4 things that are in AOTY. I see other categories taking secondaries that we considered heavily here, and it was definitely a lot of discussion. I know some people thought, I think opinions on what would win were mixed. It felt like some of the people who didn't want MyGo to win were convinced MyGo was going to win from day one, and then there were other people who were like more in favor of MyGo who were like, yeah, I don't know, I don't think it's the favorite. I think Surune might win, or I think Kuma might win. So I would definitely say it was a contentious race. I was never, at least personally, I was never quite sure if I was going to win until the very end.
But I want to kind of circle back to Vinland, just because I know the season it so grew on me just because of the kind of setup that the first season it gives you that expectation of what's to come, and then it doesn't come. But then the more and more I watched Farming, the more and more I found myself getting drawn into its world, and it really goes to show why the first season is very often called the prologue arc, right?
Yeah, because it is just so radically different from the rest of the series, completely gives you false expectations. And for that reason, I definitely think the farm arc, there's definitely people who lose interest in the series when they get there, because they go in thinking, oh, this is going to be a big Viking war story. Woo. Well, in a way it is a Viking war story, but you know what I mean. But, if you were here for action, if you were here for big Viking fights, this is the season that tells you you're not going to get that, but you are going to get something so much more interesting.
This has been a wonderful conversation, truly. And I want to thank both of you for joining me.
Thank you for letting me be here.
How about this? I don't want to use it as like a party trick or something, but I know that.
Go ahead, use me as a party trick.
Well, obviously, you know a lot about medieval history. Would you mind just giving us 1 or 2 fun facts about the period that Vinland Saga is set in?
Well, I got my master's in medieval history because this is my favorite party trick. Probably my favorite is one that exists only in the anime. This isn't in the manga. So there is, in one episode of season 2 of Vinland Saga, Canute is sitting on a desk, and this isn't in the manga, this is just in the anime. And if you look at the books on Canute's desk, those books have the same cover as the St. Cuthbert Gospel. The St. Cuthbert Gospel being the oldest book, like the oldest intact book from England.
Well, don't say that we never taught you anything. Yeah. And on that note, thank you so much for coming by.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
We have had the remarkable pleasure of receiving a message from Shuhei Yabuta, the director of Vinland Saga Season 2, to our anime and the entire community that has supported us. I am truly thankful to have received this brilliant award. Vinland Saga is a work that shows Yukimura Sensei's frank outlook as he confronts the theme of violence. Even in the current day, almost 1,000 years on from the era depicted in the series, we believe that the strong messaging in the series is thought-provoking, and that is precisely why it has resonated with so many people. We cannot contain our joy at how far it has reached. This is all thanks to nothing other than the understanding and passion showed by the community that has emerged from all of you. It is an honor to have been able to provide some small help to Yukimura Sensei in bringing his story to so many people. Well, I think it's the least we could do in order to honor this incredible work from both Yukimura Sensei and everyone's hard work over at Studio Mappa. Thank you, Yabuta-san. Romance anime holds a special place in our hearts, captivating us with its tender moments, heartfelt confessions, and heart-fluttering relationships. Whether it's a slow-burning romance or a whirlwind love story, these series remind us of the beauty and complexity of human emotions. Let's relive the moments of passion, longing, and devotion that have touched us deeply. Here are your nominees for Best Romance of 2023.
なんだよ。
心臓の音、こないだよりすごい早い。お菓子くれるの？ありがとう。
ありがとう。俺もいいの？
綺麗な人。あっちの部屋のさ、あれいいの？
行くものなどめでて何が。
はい、これ王様に。市川って面白いね。クソ真面目だね。
行こうか。
ありがとうございます、お姉様。あんたのことなんて大嫌いよ。
And the winner for the jury nomination is Insomniac's After School. And the public chose Kaguya-sama, The First Kiss That Never Ends.
Now, Phoenix, what do you think of these nominees? Which one kind of do you lean more towards?
I lean a little bit more towards the jury winner of Insomniac's After School. A little bit more than the Kaguya-sama, even though I do love both.
Can you briefly, because I've seen Kaguya-sama, and it really was just kind of everything I've been hoping for, in a sort of like, finally some progression starts happening, they have to deal with the fallout of that. And I haven't really heard of Insomniac's After School. Can you give a brief explanation of what it is and why you like it so much?
Yeah, so Insomniac's After School follows a kid named Ganta. He has insomnia, and it's affecting his school life. But one day he sneaks off at school to try to find a quiet place to rest, and he stumbles upon his classmate and fellow insomniac, Isaki, in the abandoned telescope in their school's shut-down astronomy club, and they kind of end up hanging out together, and, you know, a little romance grows from there.
Does she end up being a vampire, and then
That was
go off into the... Oh, that was last year.
That was last year.
That was a reference to Call of the Night.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When it comes to Insomniac's After School, it really just did just about everything right. The characters have incredible chemistry without lacking any kind of depth. The pacing there's never really any dull points. The presentation is amazing when it hits, and there's a lot of subtle moments throughout the series. These that are just incredibly charming. It's the kind of series where it's endearing the first time, but watch it a second time, and any time after that, and you'll notice things you didn't before. There's so many layers here, and it just does a lot well.
Do you prefer your romances to have more of a drama element or more of a comedy element? Because we have both of those kind of represented in these nominees.
That is true. That's a good question, actually. I prefer more drama, but comedy is more entertaining, but the drama is more engaging, I believe. So I think that's why Insomniacs After School kind of has the more engaging type of drama. It's realistic, it's sweet, and it subtly builds throughout the series.
How do you two think that Kaguya balances its, because Kaguya is very much so a comedy show. What do you think about it in general?
I think that usually it balances it very well, but there are some times where it slips up and tries to frame something comedic when it's realistically a serious moment, or vice versa. I personally feel that The First Kiss That Never Ends is the first time where it struggled with that to at least a noticeable degree, because spoilers here, I guess the whole idea of the different sides of Kaguya in the courtroom, it makes sense as a way of portraying like her different masks, but it's framed in a very comedic way, so having that be used as a serious plot element, it kind of ends up meshing a little and kind of degrades some of the impact.
Would you agree with that, Phoenix?
I'd have to agree, actually. Kaguya-sama is a series that I really love because I do love rom-coms as well. I grew up watching a lot of anime rom-coms, and it has all the elements of that. But specifically in The First Kiss That Never Ends, I agree with Nick in that it had some tonal issues of like trying to keep its funnier moments, but struggling to balance that with like really serious moments that need to be taken more seriously. And like the characters are actually trying to understand their relationship and be together, but trying to still keep that same comedy that the series is known for. I think it struggled with that a little bit.
Yeah, the courtroom scene really speaks to me, just because, you have this kind of, like, courtrooms in general are kind of serious, and then you have the Kaguya being kind of berated by the, like, more jaded, cold Kaguya, and then she's like talking in baby speak back to her, so it's a bit of a mismatch. So I can totally see where that's coming from. Phoenix, out of these nominees, is there anything that you would say is kind of like a dark horse, something that you wish did better, or you're happy is in here but didn't end up winning?
For the public side, I'm a little sad that My Love Story with Yamada-kun is only 4.
Same.
Just because it was a story that not only was the like romance I thought was really well done, but also it's one of the rare like romance series that actually puts a lot of effort into their animation of the series. Not to go too far off the rails, but the way that they set up the shots and the storyboarding for the series is really well done, and it kind of stands out for that.
I think I've got some new things to put on my recommendation list, as well as everyone else in the audience. So thank you so much for being on with me, and have a good day.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Today we're celebrating the genre that brings the charm of everyday life to our screens, slice of life. In these anime, we find beauty in the ordinary and warmth in human connections. From heartfelt friendships to reflective moments, slice of life series remind us of life's simple joys and profound meaning. As we explore the nominees for Best Slice of Life, let's cherish the laughter, tears, and quiet moments they've shared with us. Here are your nominees for Best Slice of Life of 2023.
仕事の話なんてしないのよ。ゆりかさん結構酔ってます。
なんだこの匂い。
これ絶対うまいやつ。
ごめんなさい。私そういうもっとまっすぐ、もっと遠くに。ゆきち、ビールおかわり。お家はどこ？運んであげる。悪いよ、すぐそこだし。しっかり捕まってね。
And your jury winner for Best Slice of Life is Aikatsu 10th Story Mirae no Starway. and the public chose Skip and Loafer.
Now, I have to admit, I have a bit of a bias here because I was really rooting for Skip and Loafer just because it was such a sweet story. It was the minor bit of drama that was in it didn't explode to where it could have gone. What did you think about the series, Joe?
It's a really interesting slice of life in the sense that the way it depicts its tensions is very deliberate, I feel, because of it's a story about, a girl going from like rural Japan into like urban Japan, which is a lot of the slice of life stuff here is very much about like very modern and contemporary challenges, and that transition from rural to urban is kind of something that you don't see too much. Oftentimes it's the other way around. And so there are like a lot of these characters that have these sort of like everyday tensions as well. I was pleasantly surprised seeing Nao's character because I wasn't expecting a trans character to like really show up. So that was really interesting.
And I think they treated that with a sense of decorum and respect.
Yeah, there's something really interesting, right? Because like Nao's a stylist, and a hairstylist would still kind of fall under what would be called like sort of like the water trade or water commerce. It's a specific kind of industry that for the most part tends to be associated with LGBT people in Japan. It's a thing in East Asia in general where like a lot of depictions of LGBT and queer people, especially trans people, they are associated oftentimes with like bars, entertainment industries, like all that kind of stuff. And so it is this sort of very awkward, tension-filled industry where it can be seen as a kind of like empowering sort of space, but also a sort of like very trapped kind of space. It essentially becomes a thing where it's like, oh, you can be yourself, but only in these sort of like defined spaces. And I think Nao's character was done quite well in the sense that it doesn't shy from the critical reality of like those sorts of like identities, but doesn't try to undermine her character in any sense.
For sure. I totally saw that. That's a great insight. Now, Ananis, I want you to explain a little bit just because I always thought that Skip and Loafer was a show that kind of screamed what our anime would kind of be into. Can you explain what your guys' thoughts were on it?
Right. Just to start out, even regardless of Skip's place, I don't think it's fair to say that the jury hated Skip. The jury did, on balance, quite like Skip, as you mentioned. With Nao, for example, I think there was pretty much universal praise to see transgender representation done so respectfully. There was definitely a lot of praise for sort of the visual style, I think, especially in terms of bringing out its comedic beats. One of the jury hangups, I will say, for at least several jurors, some of us found the Ririka arc to not be as convincing or as compelling. It wasn't integrated as well with Skip's more upbeat, heartwarming moments.
And now explain exactly where Aikatsu succeeds. Well, actually, before that, Joe, how did you like watching Aikatsu?
Aikatsu was a great slice of life story with many things happening.
Can you say one or two things that happened in the show?
I love how they looked at the future of the Starway.
Yeah. And my favorite line from the show was he was at the Starway with my mom when she was researching spiders just before she died.
Wait, is that part of the show?
No, I would love to hear what the two of you, what your favorite of the Aikatsus were. I'm sure that our viewers are... No? Okay.
Please, I would love to know the jury's thoughts on Aikatsu, as well as a brief summary of
the jury's thoughts. Aikatsu 10th Story is the finale movie, what looks like it's likely to be the bookend on the franchise more broadly. I think for us, we thought it was a very compelling send-off, the way that character arcs were given these very respectful, compelling send-offs. In Aikatsu 10th Story, though not in the mainline series, our protagonists are now young adults. They're now working in the world of show business. Not to give spoilers, but one of them is off in England studying abroad to be a teacher. It's a really, I think, well-done exploration of the ways in which dreams are preserved and are persevered even into young adulthood. Also, the songs are bops, as it were. The Aikatsu music's very good.
Pretty important thing to get or to accomplish when when you're Aikatsu.
Yes.
I wanted to ask Joe about just what you think about finales in general. Almost even if they almost carry a sort of unfair advantage.
I think it's kind of fair game, right? Because like if you take a look at like a finale and then you try and separate it from what essentially makes it a finale, what makes it meaningful, it feels kind of sort of clinical. I think, hey, if the Starway is this strong because it's a finale to a long-standing series, then that's realistically the kind of experience that we have to account for.
And it's not exactly shooting fish in a barrel, right? Like you still have to stick the landing. And
yeah, I mean, like, look, we've all seen How I Met Your Mother. And talk about a slice of life that ends off in a way.
We could talk about these all day.
We could.
But, that's all the time we have. I want to thank Joe for stopping by and having some fun with us.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Joe.
And thank you, Ananis. All right, move on with the show. Over the years, we've kind of struggled with how to name this category. It was originally just thriller, and then thriller mystery, and then one year they even threw out mystery/horror/crime, which is terrible. We eventually settled on a nice, concise word, suspense. But regardless of what it's called, we just wanted a catch-all for all of those shows that elicit certain urges. The ones that have you biting your nails, your eyes widening, and your breath being held in rapt anticipation. Here are your nominees for Best Suspense of 2023.
釜茹での刑は釜揚げともいい大量の油が使われた。ブラウ1589。
And the jury winner for Suspense is Pluto.
And your public award winner is Heavenly Delusion.
Now, I have to say that these winners are kind of classic our anime awards, I think, where they're both, decidedly good shows. What are your guys' opinions on these winners?
Before I even get into these winners, Suspense is far and away usually my favorite of all the genres that the Art Anime Awards do. From Cyberpunk Edgerunners to Tatami Time Blues to Sunny Boy and Odd Taxi to Doro Hedoro. Usually some of my favorite shows of the year end up in this category. So I was very invested to see where these would play. Particularly Heavenly Delusion, which was my favorite anime of last year. So I am both so excited to see the love on the public side and not to see it place even in the top 3 on the jury side. Definitely doesn't raise questions because I can get it. So I'm interested to see Stein's case for, what hurt that show. And just to let me bask in its glory for a bit, to me, what makes a Suspense is kind of 3 components: the build-up and of like an individual scene, the payoff of that scene, and kind of how that continues throughout the whole season. And if you look at a show like, for example, Dark Gathering, that has such a good build-up in each of its scenes of suspense and anticipation, and it has, a little bit of a haha comedy payoff, but it didn't feel to me like it continued a momentum that kept it going throughout the season in the same way that Heavenly Delusion did. And I'm curious, Stein, when you guys were kind of crafting your picks, what elements really elevated Pluto so high and Heavenly Delusion not so much?
Pluto and Tengoku are both set deep. They're both in the future, but they're from vastly different futures from each other. And Pluto has the luxury of allowing the characters the depth they need because they're not fighting for their lives continuously. Geist has the ability to go through from country to country and figure out what's causing the robot or the other robots to be taken out, whereas the duo from Tengoku are doing so in between fighting for their lives.
Yeah, and also to go on top of that, Pluto had 8 one-hour episodes. And I think that gives Pluto a little bit more time to kind of dig into what was going on more than, yeah.
Length did, in fact, play a factor in some of our discussions. It's important to be able to settle on the conclusions you're trying to create for each episode. And by having full 8-hour-long episodes, you have more time to close out each episode on the thought that you're trying to produce.
Quickly, this has been wonderful discussion about Heavenly Delusion and Pluto, but there's some big names on here that kind of surprised me, evidenced by the fact that you've got Attack on Titan, this beloved series that spans over, this thing came out in like 2020 something, right? Carolyn, how do you feel about Attack on Titan, and are you aligned more with the public or the jury here?
I'm definitely aligned with public for multiple reasons because, well, as you said, Attack on Titan has been around longer than any of these shows. Okay, Pluto, you can make the case that, well, it's Astro Boy, so it's longer, but you know what I mean. The fact that we have to say the final season, the final chapters tells you how,
it's been a journey for sure.
Anticipated this has been, as stupid as the naming convention is. But not only have we been held in suspense by the activity in the show, we're also being held in suspense from when the show is actually ending and how long it's been for one thing, and then just how we never knew what was going to happen in the next episode, the next series, the next chapter that they ended up calling it. And now that we finally reached the end, I think that gives it a little bit of an unfair advantage, especially in the public eye of opinion. But it definitely feels like it deserved to be far higher on the jury side.
I think what Pluto does better than both of those series, more than anything, is hammer home the feeling that at the end of the day, hatred only begets more hatred. You can see it in every episode, and you can see it in all of Abuela's and ultimately Roosevelt's actions. Everything is pulled forward by hatred of others. And that underlying tone, though pessimistic, is kind of brought to the forefront and overcome ultimately by Astro Boy, because it is an Astro Boy series. Geist definitely comes to that conclusion.
I think another interesting thing about Pluto is why I would give it good points in suspense is that it seems easy to give a very foreboding villain, but to see the result of their goals, the robot is in shambles with horns in their heads. It sounds simple, but I think that was probably one of the images that stuck in my mind more than anything else in the show.
Well, it definitely screams Astro Boy, doesn't it?
Now, it's clear we could sit here and talk all day, but I'm going to leave the audience in some suspense as we cut it short here. I want to thank you for coming on and having this talk with us. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's time to celebrate the comedic brilliance of our beloved characters. From the enigmatic Sid Kagano, whose exaggerated delusions in the Eminence and Shadow series never failed to tickle our funny bones, to the charming and resourceful Anya Forja from Spy Family, whose quick wit and hilarious predicaments keep us eagerly anticipating each episode. These characters embody the essence of comedy and anime, each bringing their own unique flair and humor to the screen. So let's raise a toast. Here are your nominees for Best Comedic Character of 2023.
いたいた。高松さん。いた。
はショーテスト。前は。 筋肉要塞が強いわ。どんな歩き方しろ。クレアキと子供だけするんだ。写真撮っていい？あれ暗いな。あれ夜だからそんなことしても意味なんかないよ。言ったじゃない。
ちょっと突き指しちゃいます。
攻撃力も低いし生命力が強くてしぶといだけで丸飲みにされないようにすれば。
So the jury winner is Anon Chihaya from Bang Dream, It's My Go. And the public winner is Sid Kagano from The Eminence in Shadow.
So before the stream started, you were telling me you were really rooting for a character. Did that character win?
No, it was Rentaro from 100 Girlfriends.
Why exactly? What's the appeal of Rentaro?
Well, the entire show is really friggin' insane. And it's like a harem comedy, but taken to like ridiculous lengths. And I think that that level of excess, and he is so incredibly earnest throughout it all. I think it really ties all of the comedy in that show together.
Oh, he's the he. He's not a girlfriend.
No. The one non-girlfriend. I am happy to see Sid win though, because I feel like he really struck a chord with like anime fans just by being completely serious. But because he's so serious, he just like he gets to what is really funny about Chunibyo characters in a way that's just like we've seen this trope before, but he just takes it to a new level because there's actually like a lot of like fantasy, like dark fantasy stuff happening around him, but he's actually kind of oblivious to it. But he thinks that he's got control over it. It's just a really funny way of doing that trope.
But is he like unintentionally funny? He doesn't mean to be funny, but it just the way that he is ends up being.
Yeah. Like that's him in a nutshell. He's never trying to be funny. He just is.
That's great. I mean, I think it takes a lot of skill in order to write a character like that.
Oh, and then there's Chihaya that won the jury award. Actually, I have a problem with how she won because personally, I don't think that the show is very comedic in general. It's like very dramatic. It's mostly a drama. I think Anon's like, one joke is that she wanted to be special, but she's just like kind of overshadowed by everybody else. Most of the characters in that show have like really emotional hang-ups, including her, and like they have a cry about it every couple of episodes or so. Well, for me, it didn't really strike me as a very funny show, but I'm interested in hearing what the jury has to say about it.
Personally, at least for me, like I really have a soft spot for the type of character Anonis that you described. Is like she's essentially just an arrogant loser, and I love those characters so much. Like they try, so like the start of My Go is her trying to assemble the band with the explicit purpose of raising her own status in like just as a popular girl, but she has no real attachment, and then we see how it all blows in her face. And like you're right, the show is definitely more dramatic, but the jury was still in agreement that the comedic scenes were a highlight of the year, and like in the awards we don't discriminate between genre tags. Like for example, Sate is also from rather a show heavy on adventure and action, and I would actually argue that it's not that comedic either, but I can also appreciate his comedic moments. So that's why nothing in almost no character is out of the table either.
Oh, I'm saying here it's really funny that like Sid's right at the bottom of your of the jury vote, but he's right at the top of the public. That's like a real split.
Yeah, yeah, like you say, I can see why some people would like it. I feel that if I honestly were younger, I would definitely like him more. But I don't know. He just doesn't. There are some moments that does hit. Like I remember when he first talks to Alpha when he is a kid, and like he like makes up his hair and like tries to pose in a box just to look cool before starting to speak. Like yeah, he has silly moments like that. But I think the show is just too serious. Like it takes itself too seriously way too often, more than it tries to be consciously comedic with him. So that's why I feel it misses the mark for a lot of us in the jury.
Okay, fair enough. Like he wasn't my top pick, but I could definitely see why like the audience found him funny.
Yeah.
When we were speaking with Callum earlier, he like almost warned us, or he didn't warn us. He was like, "Oh man, Bang Dream Mygo! I can't believe we had to watch that stuff." And we were like really anticipating you coming on and being like, "Anon Chihaya, what is this?"
I'm trying to be
But-
nice. I was thinking, okay, part of me was thinking, damn, you guys suck at the jury. Why'd you like pick a whole bunch of shows that weren't even that funny?
Well, you you know that's just how it goes. Collapse. Can you go into a little bit of how you went about evaluating these characters briefly?
We tried to analyze both shows and characters, in this case characters for this category, more holistically. So even if they are in a dramatic show or have a more dramatic role in the story, we don't consider it a downgrade or... Well, the main thing to get across is that we don't just take in account which one is the funniest. Essentially, we discuss, okay, this character, you say it's funny, he doesn't have any dramatic arcs or anything. So, can you explain why it doesn't need such things to stand out from the rest of the characters that we have here?
So almost like evaluating the role that they play within the show and then how well they are executing that role. But I think we're reaching time, so I just want to thank both of you for joining me, and it's always great to speak with you every year.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Same, thanks for having me here.
All right, on to the next category. For this category, we honor the characters who bring depth and intensity to the screen, the nominees for Best Main Dramatic Character. These characters navigate life's challenges with resilience and determination, captivating us with their compelling stories. As we explore these nominees, let's celebrate their journeys of growth and triumph. Join us in honoring these unforgettable characters who have left a lasting impact on the anime world. Here are your nominees for Best Main Dramatic Character in 2023.
的ってのは人間の腹の大きさなんだ。人の腹狙って弓引いてんだ。腹に当てるかどうかなんだよ。お前らの肩。う
まく泣いてくれれば。
それでも光はあるから。
妊娠だってだいぶバッシングを受けちゃってね。
相変わらず肩こりに効くなこの船は。ん？
こんな大げさな仲直りって小学生ぶりで。
そうか。死ね。
And the jury winner for Best Dramatic Character is Sosuke Shima from Skip and Loafer. And the public winner for Best Dramatic Character is Thorfinn Karlsefni from Vinland Saga Season 2.
Fun fact, we recently held a trivia contest on the subreddit, of which Aki here is actually the winner, so congratulations to Aki.
Thanks.
And one of the questions was, what animal is Sosuke Shima most compared to? And it was A, a fox, B, a cat, C, an alpaca, and D, a dog. So Ember, a little impromptu trivia game. What is your answer?
Having actually watched the show about a week ago, I'm fairly certain it is a dog.
Ping pong. Why do you think they're compared to a dog, and is that a good thing?
If I recall from the show, it's basically he's just got almost like lighthearted, goofy kind of energy that meets me of her dog back home. And I think it's a very endearing comparison in the show.
I think it's very interesting to me just because, he does have that kind of nature. And I think it's interesting that Mitsumi is the one that makes this observation, because he also has this other side of him that's sort of kind of enigmatic and secretive and kind of there's a bit of history there. What do you think of him kind of battling with these two sides, and how does that resolve in the show?
I think it's very interesting, especially like in comparison to a lot of the other characters on this list where their problems are much more like grandiose and explosive, whereas Skip and Loafer is a much more has much more subdued drama that's still just as like poignant in terms of like I believe Shima just trying to like keep the drama within himself and not really allowing other people to see that part of him, but gradually over the course of the series getting closer to the people around him, and sort of allowing them to help him through this stuff that he's going through.
Were some of what we were discussing considerations for the jury, Aki Pender?
For Shima specifically, the things that kind of stood out the most were kind of his character journey as he begins to confront his, shall we say, checkered past, particularly vis-a-vis his relationship with his mother and to a lesser degree his brother in Ririka, and also how that contrasts with the series themes as it's explored through other characters such as Mitsumi. So basically his own journey and how he's used as a foil for other characters, to other characters rather.
Ember, what do you think of Thorfinn's much more different than I imagined journey through Vinland Saga Season 2?
I am not at all surprised that he took the public win for this one. I think he might personally be my favorite from this list as well. I'm a big fan of the manga, so I was very excited to see Farmland Saga finally get adapted, just to see this is basically like the other side of the coin of season 1, whereas season 1 is like just violence and revenge and hate. This is Thorfinn attempting to move past that and internally atoning for everything that he did in the first season, and it was incredibly powerful. Like episode 9 I think is like one of my favorite episodes of anime of the year, so just really good stuff.
Aki, what was the discussion around Thorfinn like?
You guys hit on a lot of the more poignant aspects for the jurors. They felt that his journey in this season served as a very novel but still very interesting and intricately tied to his journey in season 1. One of the big things that you guys, I don't think, mentioned that was pretty resonant with the jury was his relationship with Einar, and how that not only served to kind of lighten the tension sometimes, but also how it was an effective foil, because obviously Einar was enslaved by Vikings, and Thorfinn was a Viking warrior at one point. So the kind of interplay between those, forcing Thorfinn to, face his past in a very direct way as opposed to an indirect way that he kind of did in a lot of other parts of the season, was something that really struck a chord with the jurors.
I think we're done here. I want to thank both of you for speaking with me. Thank you, Ember.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, and Aki, I'm happy to have spoke with you.
Nice to meet you. Happy to have spoke with you. I'm Max Spender.
And on that note, I hope you guys are enjoying the show. We'll see you soon. If an anime wants you to get interested in its story, it has to get you invested in its characters. Getting an entire cast right is a difficult task that involves balancing screen time, building character dynamics, and forging believable relationships. The shows in this category reach across the spectrum in terms of personality, substance, and size. From small, focused casts to entire crews and behemoths, these characters are the most direct connection we have to the story. Your nominees for Best Cast of 2023 are
現地隊員から出動要請が来ました
別に
かわいいねめっちゃ照れる
は死ねなんだあいつ私には可愛いなんて勧誘の時しか言わなかったくせにさつきさん
よかった会えて
ゆずちゃんまこちゃん焼けたねまこちゃん逆に白くなった
俺そう遊んでやるから貸してみろほら逃げない
ボール取られちゃったのだ
ほら
姫の部屋の前も陣取られるとは
ありがとなじゃあ俺が干し方を教えてあげる
別に
だなおいいだろ持ってたいやちょっとみんなさ
おっしゃーなあトルフィーついにやったな
やった
Your jury winner is Skip and Loafer. Your public winner is Jujutsu Kaisen.
Now, I can't say that these results are all too predictable. Would you agree with that anymore?
Yeah, I kind of expected it.
And, for good reason, right? I mean, Skip and Loafer is an amazing show, and part of the reason why it's amazing in the first place is because of its cast.
I think, yeah, that's like, when I think of Skip and Loafer, that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
And what do you think about the characters of Skip and Loafer makes them particularly great for the jury?
I think the thing with Skip and Loafer is that I think they all bounce off really well off the main character in different ways, whether they're contrasting from her, mirroring her, and then she's also able to kind of bring out the best in them. But I think it's really the whole vibe that they all kind of create together, where they're very different characters from very different backgrounds, and yet they're all trying to be learning to be like supportive of each other and authentic with each other.
I never thought about that. So it really is kind of coming from the perspective of Mitsumi, where she's kind of this like fish out of water country bumpkin in the city for the first time, and the people that she meets is kind of reflective of her experience.
Yeah, and normally, I don't know, in what you'd expect is like people to either be put off by her or to make fun of her, but instead the different personalities are actually able to jive together and they're attracted to her, like they gravitate.
Storm, what are some of the things that the jury talked about?
So OniMaru has covered a lot of it, I must say, is that the interpersonal dynamics in Skip and Loafer, they pull you in. All of its cast members going through things in their own lives, whether it be Mitsumi trying to forward her goals of becoming a public servant of all things, which is really admirable, especially for her remote community. And then there's Shima's personal life, which is characterization and a presentation of something which you don't see a lot of, is someone going through and working with their childhood traumas. These two, among all of the other excellent examples in the cast, they present a really gentle aspect of exploring the things which are going on in these high schoolers' lives.
I feel like when you're dealing with, a group of high schoolers, it can be really easy to tread into melodramatic waters. How do you guys think Skip and Loafer dealt with the drama that comes up between the characters?
I feel like Skip and Loafer deals with it in a more grounded way, and it nips a lot of the misunderstandings in the bud by just like having the characters sort of try to see the other's perspective, try to be more embracing of each other's differences.
Now, the thing I've noticed about our two winners here is that Skip and Loafer, compared to Jujutsu Kaisen, is a kind of a more self-contained story, right? So it's one girl's life, it's a school, it's a little sub compartment of Tokyo. And Jujutsu Kaisen and some of these other shows, like the 100 Girlfriends Who Really Love You, which is 100 girlfriends, it's really drastically different in the amount of people that they're trying to showcase, and thus it changes the kind of calculation, what people you can focus on, what sort of importance and significance that you can show. How do you think that Jujutsu Kaisen handled its large cast, OniMaru?
I think Jujutsu Kaisen did an interesting job because what we're dealing with in season 2 as a whole is like the scopes and stakes are like, I mean, the stakes were always large, but like here it's very different as like I don't know. Are we also including the flashback arc?
Part of the season, right?
So like pretty much between like it sets up the characters in the flashback arc and it gives you like really interesting background on them, which really helps kind of reinforce what's going on during the season. The way it handles its cast is very interesting because everybody sort of is scattered in Shibuya, like doing their own thing and kind of coming across different dangers, but they're all like trying to survive and also having their own goals. They're not as much interacting with each other as much as you're following kind of each of the things that's kind of happening at the same time as they're all like worried about each other and everybody coming out of it alive.
Interesting point. I didn't consider that. So, while Skip and Loafer is more about their interpersonal interactions, Jujutsu Kaisen is more the fact that everyone is sort of not exactly knowing what's going on and having to deal with their own thing individually. What was the jury's take on Jujutsu Kaisen, Sorb?
One thing that OniMaru and yourself have brought up is the large sort of divergence between the character groupings and which we saw established in the first season. A lot of the jury felt that in moving away from the close-knit teams which we got to know the characters in the first season, it really didn't work out as well, because when you put characters who spend a lot of time in the same place, they kind of make up for each other's shortcomings. But in this instance, the show is instead leaning towards more the action side of anime, where it's looking to explore character dynamics through their expression and self-expression of power and ability. And now, while it succeeds at that to some degree, there was a lot of shock moments in this season which we feel like didn't really support any character development.
I actually agree with that.
There is very limited progress that I feel like Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 does on building those established character dynamics, which I think were an integral part of the success of the first season.
Thank you for your illuminations. I mean, we could sit here and talk about cast all day, but I think that's all the time we have. So I want to thank you all for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
In the Best Animation category, we honor the studios and artists who have pushed the boundaries of creativity and innovation, delivering jaw-dropping sequences that leave us spellbound. From epic battles to tender moments of introspection, these animations have elevated storytelling to new heights, immersing us in worlds beyond imagination. So without further ado, here are your nominees for Best Animation of 2023.
Whoa!
And your juror winner for this year is OniMaru, I'm Now Your Sister. And your public winner is Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2.
Jamal, I have a sister, and I think I would know if you were my sister. So I would appreciate if you don't lie to the audience like that. But in all seriousness, these results to me aren't that surprising. But as someone who's new to the awards, I imagine they would be for you. Do you think that's correct?
To an extent, I don't know. I think OniMaru is very much like a captivating show from a movement perspective. That said, I understand why people would be drawn to these, and Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 especially is one that it's an action fest, and that is very interesting to watch for a lot of people, myself included. And so, yeah, I see how people came to this conclusion.
Now the thing is, everything that I've heard about Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 this year has been all about how the production is falling apart. Like, you know, the animators are all stressed and they're like writing cryptic messages on Twitter that get deleted immediately about how everything's going horribly. Is the animation holding up despite all that?
I would say that there's definitely some really big highs in Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. While I would say that there is a degree of inconsistency and there is like a lack of refinement in some places, it would be kind of hard to lie and say that there isn't something worth talking about, because there definitely is. And it's a very explosive season, to say the least, if we're talking about the Shibuya incident arc, as well as Hidden Inventory as well. I think especially since the shift in director to Jota Goshizono, I was very excited just because I knew that they were going to bring a lot more talent on board for this season, and it's very evident that that's the case. There are some really high highs. So if you look to episode 5, for example, animation direction like Sota Yamazaki and Taki Ninuma, they paint this very like visceral picture of the Jujutsu world. Or if we move over to the Shibuya arc, you have stuff like episode 16 and 17, so the Thunderclap part 1 and 2 episodes. They get extremely comical and creative and almost create this like reality bending experience just through all the different approaches that are in play. And so I think as a result, even though there is something to be said about the production and whatnot, and I'm not really dismissing that, I think there is something really, really crazy under the surface of all of that. And that did come out for quite a lot of that season, especially in those most intense moments.
That's a really good point. It really is a sort of like peaks and valleys situation where you have those highs like you were talking about, and then you have that scene where Yuji is fighting like a big grasshopper or something, and it's just their arms going. It's like 2 frames that they just switch back and forth really quickly. Thalu, now that we've talked about Jujutsu, exactly what about OniMaru? I know that the awards in the past has had this contention between character acting and like kind of more actiony. Is it just character acting that OniMaru excels at, or what exactly propels it to top of animation?
There was actually a really close call between Heavenly Delusion and OniMaru, and at the end of it, it did kind of come down to that character acting. But the main takeaway is there's just so much variety in the type of cuts that are used in the show. Heavenly Delusion does a really good job at having those silly moments, but also having these really well acted and almost like realistic kind of motions for characters, especially considering the character designs that the show has. But it just kind of came down, like I said, to the overall expressiveness and how varied it was in OniMaru. They're both very capable shows. It just kind of came down to which one slightly excels over the other.
Jamal, what are your kind of personal biases when it comes to animation? What are the things that you like, that you look for, that you consider good animation? And does that show up in any of these nominees here?
I would say there's something that I have been thinking about a lot when it comes to what I classify as good animation and or what we consider as the best animation. I was thinking about that obviously in preparation for these awards, and I feel like it's very good to make a distinction between what moves the most and what moves perhaps the most effectively. And I think that changes my mindset a lot when I look at a series of nominations, because while there are some things that move a lot and regularly, it doesn't necessarily mean that I think they're the best at communicating what what the story is about or what it's trying to say and whatnot. And so that said, I do think that I do lean a lot into like acting and whatnot. I love action, and there are different sorts of action too, but I do lean into acting as being a really great expression of that, since I think, especially when it comes to communicating how people feel and how characters feel, there's only so much characterization I feel like you can do through acting alone. I'm sorry, through action alone. And so I think that more subtle acting seen in, for example, Serene, or even in shows like Heavenly Delusion at points, I think appeals to me a bit more. But I still think that that doesn't necessarily mean that like, oh, this is the only way you can characterize, but it's the characterization that does appeal to me.
That's a great answer. But I think that's all the time we have. It's been a wonderful conversation, and I want to thank both of you for speaking with me.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much.
Now, I have to admit, in the past, I was a noted background art hater. In fact, when we were trying to cut categories, background art was always the first one that came to mind. Discover my surprise when like every host came back at me with the fact that it consistently got some of the highest nomination vote numbers. It turns out I had been missing the forest for the trees. Intricate backgrounds set the stage for the entire narrative, immersing viewers in the world and enhancing the storytelling in ways I hadn't fully appreciated before. So here's to eating a slice of humble pie and giving credit where credit is due to the unsung heroes behind the scenes who breathe life into every frame. These are your nominees for Best Background Art of 2023.
And the jury and public winner is Heavenly Delusion.
Before we started recording, you said you had prepared a little something. Can you explain exactly what that is and why it ultimately didn't have to be used?
So yeah, I didn't know what was going to win before I came here, and so I'd been going through all of the nominees. I usually try and like find connections with them because I'm always really interested in like what, like, because usually people don't think about the behind the scenes of stuff when they put in these nominations. They just see the show and go, "That's what I'm going for." This year, people nominated Yuji Kaneko, the background director, 3 times, both across the jury and public. So, Heavenly Delusion, Ranking of Kings, and Trigun Stampede were all by him. He is a mastermind of anime backgrounds. It has been for a very long time. Our Anime Awards have had a bit of a weird time with like movies and TV and how do we separate like backgrounds between them. But Yuji Kaneko is one of those people who like debuted in TV, quickly was rushed over like, please do backgrounds for our films, and so to have these 3 premium shows all with him and his studio that he runs, it's like we are being treated this year, and heavily. I was okay with one of his things winning. Trigun Stampede, I think, was also like a really big competitor. But Heavenly Illusion is beyond standout. There is nothing like it. I think there's a reason it's both public and jury. Everyone, as soon as you saw those backgrounds, even for an episode 1 where they're first just walking through this ruins, I don't think it's Tokyo at that point, but just the ruined cityscape, it is this immediate moment of, oh wow, I'm going to vote that for background art of the year.
It's your first year doing background art for the jury. What was your experience, and how did you land on Heavenly Delusion as your winner?
Looking at background art in this sort of quote critical environment is something that's new to me. You know, in the past, like I'll watch shows and be like, oh yeah, that show had really good background art. Yeah. Or like I can spot a show that has like not so great background art, but I couldn't necessarily explain why I liked some background arts more than others, or I'd be like, oh, this one's really colorful, or this one has a lot of detail. But I learned a lot from all the other jurors about like what they were looking for and how the different art styles can stand out. And especially for going back to Tengoku, it was really, really cool. Like right away, like we were talking about, it's so clear that these backgrounds all tell a lengthy story about all these places that they're visiting. And there's just so much like history that these characters are coming through and adding their own history to these places as well. This was all of our number ones. Tengoku is so good this year.
What I'd like to bring up is that very often, I'm pretty sure I've asked this exact same question in the past, but it's a very easy question to ask. Very often, what's quote unquote good background art is often what's like very nature aesthetic, right? It's depicting nature in some way. That's a large part of Heavenly Delusion. Now, I want to focus on the fact that Akuma-kun, which is an ONA that I hadn't heard of before, that also plays pretty highly for the jury. And I'm looking through these pictures now, and it doesn't seem to be that nature focus, but rather this kind of intricate.
I predicted Akuma-kun was going to win jury.
Because it's very jury core.
It's not only very jury core, but I don't want to be like the behind the scenes person every single time, but it's by the same background director as Daimon, which won last year for jury. And that was another out of left field pick. And it kind of made me pay attention to Yumiko Kuga, because she's not known for much. She spent most years doing like Pokemon stuff, and then like came in with like Daimon, did a Tekken thing, has done like a couple of scattered things, and then Akuma-kun, which is like a big standout. I get why the public didn't vote for it, because the public didn't see it, but it is a weird look. Like it's standout, and it's you kind of just can't help but just stare at it for a while with its backgrounds, because it's got this unique, like it moves totally away from the kind of realism of Heavenly Delusion and into something that has a real identity of its own. That's also different from the identity of Gegege no Kitaro, which is based on.
Is that what the jury was thinking, Aries, when they were talking about it?
Oh yeah. So Akuma-kun was one of the first things I watched when I joined the jury, because it had like just came out like that first week of November or something, right? That was like one of the first big things that I jumped in on, and we were all very impressed by like all these
really deep blacks, the way that they follow like the corners and the surfaces makes for some really cool like illusion of depth. It's a very unique look, and it stuck with all of us for a long time. It's funny talking about Yuji Kaneko earlier. We joked often that we were so close to having Yuji Kaneko all top 3 spots, but we liked Akuma-kun a little bit too much for that to happen.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. Like, there is absolutely an argument that Akuma-kun is more ambitious in a way, because it's like Heavenly Illusion, you read the manga and the anime version is a pumped up version of it. It's what you expect, but the best version of what you'd expect. But yeah, Akuma-kun is, I don't think anyone thought, oh yeah, that's exactly what I thought this Kitari spin-off would look like.
It's been really great fun talking with you. I don't
Yeah,
want
you
it to
too.
end, but thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, see you again next year.
Bye. From iconic heroes to memorable villains, character design plays a crucial role in bringing these personalities to life. Here are your nominees for Best Character Design of 2023.
人の女の胸気安く触ってんじゃねえぞこら失礼しました
誰が誰の女
か一緒にいんのは同業かボディーガードってこともあるか
おいしいよな術師でもないチューブを殺してさ
どうですかはいスポーティーなポニーテールこれも似合う続けてふふやっぱり定番ツインテール私は新人アイドル有馬香奈
僕が脇目も振らずに走れるのはセカンドドライバーである徳丸さんのフォローのおかげなんですよよく言う走るときは
どこかお出かけ？
うん動物園行くんだ
明日暑いわよしっかり対策しないと
ごめんね
2-1
登ってゆくところ見逃さないでいてずっとついてきて
から食わんかい
いりませんってば
あかんで好き嫌いは
好き嫌いとかじゃなくて
だったらなんやねん
Your jury winner is Onimai, I'm Now Your Sister. And the public chose Oshinoko.
X, I don't think you're my sister.
I know I have this cute avatar, but no, I'm sorry, I'm not your sister.
So we're here for character design. I think we did the whole rigmarole last year of what is character design, but if you could give a brief summation of what it means to be a character designer, what does character design lend itself to in the world of anime?
So character design is kind of a very fluctuated thing to say. If you have a title that's originally from a manga, it's converting those designs into animated form. So you may have a bunch of line work from the original manga. Animators can't really draw that for every single frame. You need to convert those designs into something that can be more easily drawn to be animated and move around, unlike in the manga, which are more still panels. Or you could be like Kana Hirayama or Kappei and literally push for Oshinoko to be animated, and like is the major driving force, despite working on shows before and after its broadcast. I was in Shibuya right when Oshinoko was being broadcast, like right at that point. You couldn't look around without seeing 3 billboards of Ai just around. It was insane. And just seeing like that type of beautiful design really kind of sold me. This is much bigger than I ever thought it could be.
Now, Eggman, what were the jury thinking when they were talking about these designs? Were they looking at, how well they animated, how unique they were? What were your total considerations when looking at these?
I would say our jury in particular had a pretty heavy emphasis on like outfit variety. And for example, in our winner, Mahiro in particular, kind of her character development was also reflected in the outfits that she wore. Like at the beginning, she's just wearing these loose clothes, which are probably more comfortable for her because she grew up as a boy and then she got turned into a girl. And then as the show progresses, you see that she wears more feminine clothing and just different clothes in general. She wears like kimonos and all sorts of different stuff.
That's really interesting. So almost like reinforcing the show's theme of I mean, some people consider Onimai this kind of like trans allegory. So literally in the beginning, kind of rejecting that degree of femininity, but over time accepting who you are.
Yeah, I would say another great example also with a trans character in it is Skip and Loafer. Now-chan in that show is very like understated trans design that doesn't fall into like the caricatures that other shows do. And Skip and Loafer also follows that same sort of principle of like the characters' personalities are reflected in their outfits versus something like Jujutsu Kaisen, which the designs were simplified from season 1 to season 2 to help them be animated. And so we kind of take all that into account, but they just matter more for different shows. Like simplifying the designs was kind of a requirement for Jujutsu Kaisen with how much they were really trying to do in that second core especially.
Now, Mega, you talk about seeing all this depictions of Ai just plastered all over Shibuya. What exactly about Ai and the characters in Oshinoko do you think draw that sort of attention? Because Ai definitely is eye-catching.
It's the combination. Like the designs are for beautiful people. I mean, Ai is being sold as this big transcendent idol that just draws you in. And Kape really did a great job at carrying that over from the original manga and just kind of making her have this cute but mysterious type of feeling to her where you're like, I really want to know more. And I think the idol MV really carried that over at the very beginning too. Like that's what really draws you in is I really want to know more about her. And so then that carries over to her children. And then also you have the variety of designs, especially with Kana, who is so expressive. She's probably the most expressive of all the characters in Oshinoko. And you get that nice range of expressions, as you can see in our public picture up there. That's why she's our showgirl there.
I will say that the character designer for Oshinoko said that Kana was the hardest character for her to draw, but she got fewer retakes for Kana than she did for Ai, and so Ai ended up being like the more difficult character when it came to put pen to paper, basically.
That's all the time we have. It's been really great speaking with y'all. I really wish we could continue for longer, but I want to thank both of you for coming here and speaking with me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
All right, and that's it. Scene. Now, I've been writing these little introductions for 6 years now, and every time we get the cinematography, it's some variation of, what the hell is it? Here's my rudimentary explanation. It's how the show presents itself to you. It's the framing of each shot, the play of light and shadow, the movement of the camera, all working together to create the visual language of the story. So while it may sometimes feel invisible, it's undeniably crucial in shaping our viewing experience and drawing us into the world on screen. Here are the shows we think did it best in 2023.
何すんだよお姉ちゃん。お姉ちゃん。
気づいたらこっちに。あなたは？
自分も大体同じです。多分。
私が。あ、先輩！やばいやばい！やばいやばいやばい！
なんだ。すごいだけじゃなくて、すごくいい人だよ。
相手に及ぼす力も半減だ。結果喋る生首の一丁上がりというわけだ。
Your jury winner for Best Cinematography is Tsurune Season 2. And the public chose Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. So it's a double 2.
Double 2. Now, when we said Tsurune Season 2, you seem pretty happy. Can you explain why that was?
Yeah, honestly, if I didn't vote, because if I were to vote, I clearly I'm biased towards Elemental Delusion because of Kenta Iwaki being the compositing director, and he's a big friend of mine. I worked even with him on the opening that he directed for Girls Frontline. But in Tsurune was clearly the one that I really wanted to win more on a more technical level, because I think it was probably able to kind of create some sort of a full package when it comes to photography, when it comes to compositing, when it comes to when it comes to cinematography in anime, Tsurune in this regard, I feel like it was clearly probably the strongest in general, I feel like, between all the categories. And I think Tsurune checks the marks on pretty much everything. Like, it's able to depict a specific environment in different times of the day and different seasons with a certain amount of clarity when it comes to the general understanding of the lighting, but also with differences that are strong and very, very characterizing, I would say. It's able to mix together the different environments of animation in terms of 2D, cell, and then backgrounds, and then 3D animation. And I feel like for Tsurune, which is a show that uses surprisingly a lot of 3D animation, is able to kind of definitely go above and beyond into making all these sort of different elements fit together. And then you have also the ability of expressing emotion and expressing the different moods of the show, not only when it comes to the general feel of a scene, but also the singular emotion of a character, using colors that are not necessarily already put together by the direction per se, but also that kind of go into more of a specific direction, a specific type of vision, thanks to elements that are like filters, like specific intensity of lighting, and so on and so forth, that are oftentimes stuff that only the compositing director can do.
I mean, that's crazy. It's kind of easy to forget that there's so many different people working in tandem to create the product that we ultimately watch. I had a really quick question for Jack now, just about cinematography in general. In the introduction, I kind of mentioned it as kind of this invisible thing. But obviously there are different styles where it can be more noticeable than the other. I know that in past years, Beastars kind of got some criticism for being a little too over the top, a little too smart with its animation, with its cinematography. So what do you think about the shows here? Do you think their cinematography is more of the invisible kind or the more showy kind, and how did that factor into your deliberation, Jack?
Yeah, I think here it depends on the show, obviously, and also in the scene. So Tsurune, in the Kudo scenes, they're very in your face, and also not in your face at the same time. The impact of the arrow hitting the target, it's very in your face. But then the timing aspect of each of the shots, which is very important to the sport, is a lot more subtle. And then outside of that, it's very subtle, strong layout usage and other things. And then compared to another show like Undead Girl Murder Farce, which is very in your face with the cinematography, uses a bunch of cool effects, transitions, and things that you don't really see in too many other shows. It's pretty ambitious with the cinematography.
Now, Far, I had a really quick question in regards to production timelines. So it is my knowledge that Tsurune was finished or mostly finished before it was airing. And in contrast to the public winner, which we all know that kind of behind the scenes happening of Mappa and Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, how do you think that affected how the cinematography is portrayed for each show? The fact that Jujutsu Kaisen was being worked on so close to the deadlines.
I mean, honestly, I would say that despite what people may think, the compositing department is the one that's kind of like always has always to work like kind of like close to the deadline because it's the last part of like the production before the editing, basically, right? So oftentimes it happens that like the compositors are incredibly fast people that are able to do incredible work in so little time. But overall, I would say there is also like another aspect there because like the compositing of Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 is also very light. It doesn't want to be overly over the top. And I would say that like Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1 had probably that sort of issue where oftentimes the compositing and the line filters that were used and they were clashing with the backgrounds, they were clashing a lot with the colors in the cell layer. While I feel like that in Season 2, the director, like our beloved Gosso, he was very inspired clearly by the openings that Shingo Yamashita did for Season 1. And he tried to kind of blend a little bit of his own style to that particular style and put that inside like the actual show, right? To a degree, I would say that a lot of important operations were oftentimes not necessarily mandatory. There was a lot of the different scenes were completely fine without having a lot of the bulk of the compositing work.
Well, that's all the time we have. Fart, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for your remarkable wealth of knowledge. I hope everyone is able to enjoy hearing that from someone who is intimately familiar. And I hope everyone watches Girls Frontline. Welcome, anime enthusiasts. Today we dive into the harmonious world of anime soundtracks at the Reddit Anime Awards 2023. I'm excited to present one of the evening's most melodious categories, Best Original Soundtrack. This award honors the composers and musicians who enrich our favorite anime with enchanting melodies. From epic scores to catchy themes, these soundtracks enhance every scene, evoking emotions long after the credits roll. Without further ado, here are your nominees for Best OST of 2023.
しましょうか。
なんでもやるからそれだけはやめてくださいや。リニアはどうなってもいいの。だから私だけは助ける。美味しいよね。あ、ねえねえ、バナナ派。やっぱり私は。1時間ついてこれたら素顔出して。
行使その力を束ね楽土へ向かわせることができる者は世を置いて他にはおらん。
And the winner for the jury award is Trigun Stampede, composed by Tatsuya Kato. And the public chose Oshino Ko, composed by Takuro Ika.
One of the things that I've always found really interesting about OSTs was that OSTs are more than just setting a mood and, you know, providing some sort of ambiance to a scene. They can be like pretty clever vessels for thematics, so inform some kind of narrative component. Did you see that running through any of these OSTs, and especially our winners?
Yeah, definitely noticed a lot of good use of leitmotifs to convey themes over the course of the story. I'll speak to Oshino Ko first. Ai's theme, which is introduced very early on, is a standout across all of the soundtracks that were up for nomination this year, and has an incredible leitmotif that the first episode is able to play off in a variety of ways. Famously, that 1 hour long first episode that comes to climax in the song Mother and Children, which is use of piano always brings me to tears. And then Ai's theme continues, or Ai's leitmotif and melodic idea continues to propagate throughout the series with Kana, Ruby. It's really quite fantastic. Trigun Stampede similarly has a great theme in Knives' theme, which comes in and out and combats with Rem's leitmotif, especially in standout songs like Drain Arm. Yeah, I mean, this was a great year for really interesting thematic ideas in soundtrack.
Can you explain to the audience what a leitmotif is?
I prepared a bit about this leitmotif thing because this year I'm actually a leitmotif hater.
Oh,
wow.
And that's because of the way that, just to give a bit of context for what I think good usage of soundtracks are, there's two main guidelines that I try to look for. One is organic interactions between audio and visual. And the second is that there's space for the viewer's own emotions and interpretations to come in. Now, the way that the leitmotif I see thrown around in soundtrack discourse, I think it's been put on a pedestal, even though it's kind of regressed from what it originally meant. Are you too familiar with kind of the origins of the leitmotif?
I believe it's Wegner, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And basically, if you look up the definition of what a leitmotif is, you get something like a short recurring musical phrase associated with an idea, place, character, which is fine, but it misses the essence of a leitmotif, I feel, which is that it's not a static thing. It over the course of the show, it should. It's translated as leading motif for a reason. It's not just in episode 1, it's gonna start as this, and then every time like a character appears, we're gonna play their theme.
Do you think that Knives' motif in the Trigun Stampede soundtrack doesn't evolve over the course of his appearances?
No, I think it doesn't evolve, and it's sort of deliberate in the way how he doesn't change his mind until the end. So I think that was very good, deliberate use of the leitmotif in that sense.
Compared to like Vash, who's a little bit more free-flowing, and there's no way that you can combine Knives and Vash's leitmotifs without it being disharmonic mess.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think about Heavenly Delusion? I think Heavenly Delusion has this kind of interesting interplay where you have these two very different settings, right? So you have this kind of post-apocalyptic fight for your life, almost Borderlandsy but more green world, and then that's contrasted against this kind of very sterile white environment of the school. Does it reflect itself in the OST at all?
I think the most interesting thing about Heavenly Delusions is sort of from the name, like Heavenly Delusions. It's the heaven that's portrayed in the sort of closed off world isn't actually heaven. And the soundtrack it does a lot of the work in portraying like the subtle horror of that situation.
Totally. Yeah, I fully agree. I think that Heavenly Delusion soundtrack, I mean, it's Ushio, so it's going to be like synth heavy and really varied. I just thought that, if you compare a bunch of different tracks, like Cooking is this upbeat, like melodic front facing, like bass focused, simple track. Compared that to Mina, which is like Akira-esque in its vibe with like these traditional drums and this like haunting choir, and then compare that to Blues Sky, which is a piano solo for so long before it starts sweeping in. I just think Ushio really nailed, to what Doka said, this like horror that felt like the subtle horror as opposed to like Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 soundtrack, which the horror, it also had horror elements, but it was much more like this is how we're building like tension in terms of action as opposed to like tension in terms of the audience needs to be afraid and nervous about what's coming.
And with that, it's the end of our segment. I want to thank you both for talking with me.
Thank you, Wilson.
Thanks for having us on.
Nothing breathes more life into a character than great voice acting. Even when handed a bad script, good voice acting buys credibility, and part of connecting with a character is believing they mean what they say. For all of the big dramatic moments that deserve praise, all of the screaming and crying, we mustn't also forget the ones in between. Both male and female VAs delivered in their roles this year, and we're excited to share our enemy's thoughts about them. Here are your nominees for Best Voice Acting of 2023.
これに懲りたら二度と会に私たちに近づいてはダメいいか次はない
はななみななみななななななみ
入るのうちの芸能科入るの
いや一般化受けた。
なんだよこの子たちをいい学校に入れたり習い事させたりいろんな選択肢をあげるには私がもっと売れてはあ暴走して公爵家潰しかけた令嬢に言われたくないんだがおっていうかうちはいいのうちにはアルくんがいるからセーフ王家的に
みたいな大怪我と一緒で吐かずにいられるのは私ぐらいなものねとかとにかく嫌がらせの言葉がひどい殺すことやら怪物同士の殺し合いを自分だけ安全と高みの見物を決め込んだアホ
出たのにもしもーしみつみちゃんそういう友情もあると思うんだよね
とっとと片付けろ俺は暇じゃねえんだ人を待たせてんだよ
And the winners for Best Voice Actor for 2023 for the jury is Tomoyo Kurosawa, Mitsumi Iwakura, Skip and Loafer. And for the voting public, Junya Inoki, Yuji Itadori, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2.
Now, I have to admit, I'm such a fake fan because Tomoyo Kurosawa is one of my favorite voice actors. She's obviously well known for being Kumiko in Hibike Euphonium. She's also Foss from Land of the Lustrous. And I had no idea that this was Tomoyo Kurosawa the entire time. It's so weird because I always think her voice is so recognizable. But I think in a way that almost lends credence to her voice acting prowess, the fact that she can so totally change and adapt to a role. What do you look for when you look for good voice acting? What does good voice acting mean to you, Ian?
I think that's a lot of it for me is, I mean, I do love a voice actor where you immediately recognize them. Like in the jury, the second VA there is Takehito Koyasu, who anytime he's in any anime, I immediately like, yes, Dio. Hello, Dio. Nice to see you. With Tomoyo Kurosawa, I love her because of everything you just listed. It's just like, oh, she has such range. Like this is not also, I didn't recognize her as Mitsumi when I first started watching Skip and Loafer, and it's such a wonderful performance as well. She's so energetic. She captures Mitsumi's character so well. But then you can turn around and be like, oh yeah, that's Rebecca from Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and it's a completely different character and a completely different performance. And that's why I definitely agree. I think she's, if not first, definitely up there in the top 3 for performances for me.
What did you think, Chairman? What were you discussing while you were looking at these performances?
Yeah, I mean, I think for the jury,
one thing that we value very highly is consistency throughout the show. So I think any good voice actor can pull out an excellent scene, but it is one thing to be good in one moment, but it's another thing to be good throughout the entire runtime of a show. And the thing that really impressed us about Mitsumi is that from the first second to the very last one, she never breaks character. Everything that she talks is just perfectly in the character of Mitsumi. Even her exposition and narration, which is usually something that a lot of voice actors will just like read the script, she like gives it the same kind of energy, the giddy, happy, like excitement that she brings to any other line. She'll bring that to her narration as well. And that was just something that really impressed us.
Now, for me, when what comes to voice acting as well is that it's not always in the control of the voice actor or actress. And what I mean by that is that you're given a script, you're given these kind of situations that your characters are put in, so you're given sort of opportunities to do with what you will. And I think that's really what elevates Yuji up to the public winner. It's just that I think in this season, he's being pulled which way in that, and I think that's partly what the public noticed with Junya Inoki's performance. Would you agree with that, Ian?
Yeah, it's obviously, I'm not surprised that he won. It was one of the more memorable performances for me from the last year, but also, the show is so popular. But for a part of the show that is so battle heavy, that is so, it's very popular. Everyone is really looking forward to it. I really think he took that performance up to another level from season one. I think season one, his performance was serviceable. It's quite good in certain scenes, but we kind of disregard how hard it is to display, get the emotional anguish to come through in a voice performance, because so many of these VAs are so good at it that you kind of take it for granted that it's not an easy talent to be able to do that, not being able to show facial features, not being able to show physical emotion, and having to do it solely in a booth with your voice. And I think that's what makes his performance, particularly in some of those scenes in the second half of the season, that are just so gut-wrenching and so moving, that he was definitely, I think, my winner for this season.
I always thought, not to be contrarian or anything, but I've always thought Jujutsu Kaisen was just fine, just okay, kind of basic shonen. But it's one of the scenes in the second part that you were talking about that really kind of made it click for me, kind of elevated the kind of situation, the kind of unique situation that Yuji's in, where he kind of has this kind of villain stuck within him that comes out every now and then, right? But then there's that one scene where he's just kind of in anguish of everything that's been wrought, that just made me really feel for Yuji the character, and it clicked.
It's the season that the scene that they ruined by playing the opening for some reason at the end of the scene, which is very frustrating because his performance is so unbelievable in that scene, and it just starts playing
Don't remind
opening.
me. Oh, I totally forgot about that. That brings up a question for me. How much were you taking into account singing ability, anything like that? Did you speaking of Anya's performance, right? Did you take into account the ability to speak like a child, or et cetera, et cetera? What were you looking for in the voice acting?
Yeah, I think everything that a voice actor or actress brings to the performance, even if it's something that is not normally demonstrated in voice acting, we always take that into consideration. So for Hoshino Ai, definitely the fact that she performs, I think, Sainwa B as herself in the show, we definitely considered that. As well as, if you're in a fight scene and you're screaming on top of your lungs, that's definitely part of the performance as well. I think for somebody like Anya, one of the reasons so her baby talk is both her kind of defining characteristic, but also a somewhat of a weakness, because she doesn't have the ability to express herself anywhere else besides just that baby talk, which does limit her performance in some ways. I know that Tanizaki Atsumi has, a big range, but as Anya, she can only really believably perform just a small part of that, which does factor into our consideration of the performance and as a reflection of the voice actor's entire skill set.
Thank you guys so much for speaking with me about this. It's been a great time. We are incredibly honored to have received a message from Tomoyo Kurosawa herself about her role as Mitsumi from Skip and Loafer, as well as an important message. Thank you for loving Skip and Loafer and Mitsumi Iwakura. I am very happy that you have recognized the time I spent with this work. Currently, Noto, Mitsumi Iwakura's hometown, has been severely damaged by the earthquake and is in need of support. The anime staff and cast are also implementing initiatives aimed at providing support, and we hope that you will visit our website even though it is in Japanese. I hope that anime will continue to be a bridge connecting the world. It's incredibly noble that Kurosawa-san, given this platform, her first reaction was to spread information about the still lingering effects of the earthquake on the Noto Peninsula and other areas. I hope we can show exactly how strong of a bridge connecting the world anime can be. We've included a link on how to donate to the Ishikawa Prefecture and help as much as we can, and we'll link in chat as well. Thank you, Kurosawa-san, once again for your wonderful performance and for giving us a cause we can fully support. I can say without a doubt that starting to watch OPs has made watching anime in general a better experience. Especially after starting a new full-time job, I take that 90 seconds to sink into my chair, sing along poorly, and build up the anticipation of getting to unwind with something after a long day. For those of you that seem to have an exact sense of a minute and 30 seconds on the seek bar, try having some patience, and I hope that these entries will show you just how powerful openings can be. Here are your nominees for Best Opening of
winner for Best Opening is Innocent Arrogance from Heavenly Delusion. And your public winner for Best Opening is Idol from Oshinoko.
So Phenom, before we went into this, you were giving me kind of like mixed feeling about seeing the rankings. Can you explain where that feeling arises from a little bit?
I'll just say this. The jury more closely aligns with my personal tastes as far as the best openings go from the year. Especially, I was shocked how many people forgot OniMaru's opening, or maybe just didn't care for it as much as I did. That's probably my favorite opening from 2023, and it feels like everybody I talked to by the end of the year just kind of either forgot about it or were like, meh, it wasn't that good. And I was like, what? It was so good. What are you talking about? So I'm already seeing it super low in the public category, and that kind of lines up with what I've heard from other people. So I love seeing it high up in the jury category.
What's so good about it?
Man, where do I even begin? Like obviously music is super subjective, so that's not always going to resonate with people, but I love the song. I think the sync and the way that every single visual component of the opening kind of matches with the song is super, super well done. I think it's just super charming. It matches the vibe of the series very, very well. Like, it's just everything you want in an opening, man.
Now, Mojave, why does Innocent Arrogance ultimately win above it?
Yeah, tell me. That's the one thing I was going to say, is that if I had any disagreement with the jury picks, I didn't love the Heavenly Delusion opening that much. It is very well made, of course, but I am interested in what the jury thought about that opening that made it above everything else.
With Heavenly Delusion, it really had the full package.
Visually, obviously there's no question. It's masterclass.
The unconnected running silhouette near the end was probably one of the single most stunning things we watched this year. It's not just a gimmick. In this series, it fits extremely well. Probably the biggest thing is how it handles the music early on. We just get some very basic piano at the beginning, soft and haunting, as we kind of have these post-apocalyptic visuals going on. But the camera also takes this very low angle to make the characters seem so small in this intimidating world. Then as the song goes on, it kind of transitions several different times. What it does with drums is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Because there are some parts in the song where it's pretty much just full-on hardcore punk drumming. And it gets to that from much softer sections of the song in a pretty organic way. Individual sections have very different feelings, but it doesn't feel like it's multiple different songs just slapped together haphazardly.
When we're talking about songs, what I feel like is that Yoasobi has kind of taken over. I feel like they're everywhere now. Does anyone else feel like the same?
Yeah, and I just want to say the jury and even the public, I'm surprised, put Freerun's opening as low as it did. I'm not a huge fan of that opening, but I'm kind of surprised that the public didn't rank that higher.
But what I'm not surprised at is what they did rank high, which is Idol.
Yeah,
because if you look at
pretty-
the YouTube video for it, it has 435 million with an M view. And I mean, it's a cool song. It's got this like nice, like kind of unique rap breakdown.
I do like that about the song. Like, I feel like she's kind of gotten into, more of a standard beat, but that one sounds different from a lot of her other stuff.
And for some reason, more than anything, it's a song that I can kind of reasonably believe that a fictional Hoshino Ai would have propelled them to stardom. You get that? Like it's got this kind of captivating quality, especially with that initial shot with the shining eyes that they use as a thumbnail for the music video is insane.
I haven't watched the series yet, but I think that they captured obviously the vibe that everything is going for. And I watched that opening, I listened to the song, I get it. Like, I understand why it's as popular as it is.
Well, thank you so much, you guys, for coming by and speaking with me. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
When I was growing up, weddings always meant these big, elaborate meals. The kind where you'd start with some soup and move on to like sea cucumber. And then there was always the classic Peking duck with those like white buns that you'd put together yourself. But what I really loved was towards the end, where everything was winding down and you just spent some time eating some sweet pudding. We called it jia, or snack on some orange slices while you just relished in the moment, the contentedness of it all. That's what an ED feels like to me. The perfect end to a satisfying experience, the slice of orange after a hearty meal. Here are your nominees for Best ED of 2023.
Last chance に
「
And the jury winner is Anytime, Anywhere, Freyren Beyond Journey's End. And the public winner is Mephisto, Oshinoko.
Now, I called EDs a slice of orange at the end of a meal. Would you agree with that, Craftsdwarf? What do you look for when you look at ED?
So I'm a fraud. I tend to just kind of like let the ending play while I like, update my mail or check Twitter.
Tis.
But I will say for this category for presenting, I did go out of my way to watch and really dig into these endings, and it did sort of make me appreciate not only these endings more, but just one of the things I like in a lot of the longer shows I watch, because absolutely, having them as a nice, just like an orange after the end of the meal, just a nice palate cleanser, and it's just something, especially with like the Jujutsu Kaisen ones where, rough season, so nice, light, just slice of lifey kind of need that. But one of the things I really appreciate about EDs, thinking about it more, is just how, if an opening it's not just meant to hype you up for the show, but it's also meant to represent the show in a way. Endings have a bit more freedom. They can be more stylistic in some ways, like especially like shows with lots of endings like Aikatsu or Boruto or Chainsaw Man. They can all do these different things. And I think the Freyren ending is one of the ones from this batch that really exemplifies that, because it's so striking, like instantly. It's like, oh, wow, all right. And it's just very stand out, and I think it's a very fair pick for winner. It was definitely one of my favorites from this batch of
At the same time, it really does carry the themes of the show itself, don't you think?
Oh, that too, absolutely. I haven't even seen the show, but I know enough about it that it's like, oh, yep, they're cyclical life and death, and continuing on anyway, and yep, for sure. Like it even without the context of the show, I was able to get the narrative from the ending.
What were you guys talking about, Caleb, when you were looking at these?
Most of what we talk about, I'd say, is like the visual aspect is heavily involved, and then obviously the song is quite important. If the song is terrible, it's kind of hard to recover from, I think. But I'd say the majority is going through and having great visuals or something unique from a narrative perspective or from a visual perspective. And obviously having good synchronization to the music with the visuals is something that I personally really, really enjoy. And I know some others in the jury also look out for that too.
And you think Freyren accomplished that?
Yeah, it wasn't my personal pick for number one, but with the jury picks, pretty much from our top 6, we all liked them a lot. I've been in the category a couple times up to this point, and this was probably like the hardest vote for the group in many years because we had so many great nominees. And honestly, any of them in our top 6 could have won, and it wouldn't have surprised me too much. Like, they were all so good.
Why exactly is Mephisto so low in the jury, Caleb?
I think the general consensus of why it was so low is the visuals were not up to par with most of the rest of the category. I think some people thought the narrative of it with like the red string of fate and, showing them kind of walking through a dark and dreary place for most of the ED, like fit the narrative of the show, with Oshinoko being like kind of dark and twisted and stuff, not to go into any spoilers, but outside of kind of the narrative aspect, we didn't think the visuals were great because there was like a lot of walk cycles going on, and the song was kind of a little like upbeat compared to the kind of dark and dreary visual aspect. So it's kind of like off-putting, I guess, a little bit there. I don't think we thought it was terrible, just, probably the worst pick of what we had got, but not bad, if that makes sense.
And especially compared to all these really, for something that I really value is like a sense of uniqueness, right? Especially with EDs, like Craftsdwarf said, you have more freedom to be kind of like different and kind of experimenty, right? So take that compared to something like Spy Family's ED, which is this like super cute, like paper craft aesthetic that's just so fun. And then I love the moment at the end where it's all revealed to be like her drawing.
Yeah, we all talked about that as well. We really liked how it's basically a drawing that Anya has created throughout the whole ED, and it reveals at the end that she did it. It's really, really cute.
All right, so from both of you, any last words about EDs this year?
I do want to say, though, that I really did like G Witch's ED a lot, too. The vocal performance on that is probably one of the best I've ever heard. Like, when the chorus breaks out, it's awesome.
Yeah, like I said before, lots of good. I enjoyed all of these shows. Even some of them are making me consider watching shows that I didn't really have my eye on before. They're all interesting picks, I think, one degree or another, in different ways. So yeah.
Okay, well, I hope this serves as a message to you, Craftsdwarf specifically, to watch EDs. I'll be checking in on you, and for our audience of the majesty and the beauty they can contain. But thank you so much to both of you for joining me, and I hope you have a great day. Short films offer a unique opportunity for creators to experiment with storytelling techniques, convey powerful messages, and showcase their talents in a compact and impactful format. From heartwarming tales to thought-provoking narratives, these short films have left a lasting impression on audiences worldwide. They may be brief in duration, but their impact is anything but small. Here are your nominees for Best Short Film.
And your jury winner is Sowing Love.
And your public winner is Idol.
Now, coming into this as a person who hasn't seen literally any of these, first of all, can you just explain to me what Sowing Love is? It looks like there is a girl sewn onto this guy's shirt and they're kind of looking lovingly at each other. Or is that the gist of the short, or
not quite? Sowing Love, it's a pretty heavy short, despite how cute it looks. Honestly, it's about abusive relationships, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, it looks
toxic relationship. I guess.
Toxic relationship.
Maybe that might be a better way of
yeah
nuance.
Because there's it starts off and it looks very nice and stuff. There's this guy who has a hole in his chest, basically a hole in his body, and the girl is not sewn onto his shirt. She is literally inside his body. It's this idea of you complete me, essentially. And there's this whole back and forth regarding dependency on the one you love, and how that could manifest in different sorts of toxic ways. And while it starts off very nice and loving, it eventually kind of devolves and gets pretty dark towards the second half. I forget how long it is, maybe about 5 to 7 minutes. It's not exactly the wholesome feel good thing it may appear to be, just based on this screenshot.
I would describe it as peaks and valleys.
Yeah,
the emotional highs are pretty high. Niceties are nice, and then the lows are really fucking low.
So a real relationship then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did you like the way it went? Did you would you prefer if it was just nice?
I really like the way it is. I really like how it turned out.
I think it's very overt, but I don't think that's a bad thing.
Right. Well, it handles the topic in a very mature way. It's not like this rug pull thing where it starts off so nice and then it then it gets really dark out of nowhere. it builds on it, and it has a very nuanced take on how these sorts of relationships can manifest.
Speaking of nuanced takes, people kind of describe Oshinoko as a sort of like quote unquote dark, realistic look at the idol industry. Is that what comes across in Idol?
Not real. Idol is more so just focused on like Ai's character. It almost feels like a music video that would exist diegetically in the universe of hints at the sorts of themes and ideas that you see in Oshinoko, but without necessarily directly invoking the same kinds of things, essentially. Like, because you have like this like a juxtaposition between like the being a music video, there's a juxtaposition between the verse and the refrain, essentially. So like, you know, the verses have very like cheery music, and then you hit like this bridge towards the middle where it gets like, you know, a lot more distorted. Visuals are much darker. The lyrics also become darker as well. So there is still that sort of juxtaposition, but it's not necessarily executed in the same way as something like Sewing Love, where in Idol there's more like of oscillation between the two to fit that sort of, you know, verse chorus structure, whereas Sewing Love doesn't need to adhere to that because it's a short film rather than a music video.
And that's the thing with shorts, right? They can be so varied that I imagine they're hard to compare. Aki, would you mind speaking about just, you know, how you ended up measuring these against each other and what kind of your thought process were as you went into these rankings?
So generally speaking, we kind of evaluated everything on its own merit. We did tend to weight things that had a little bit more ambition more highly than something that perhaps had a lower ambition but succeeded at its goals pretty generally. And you can kind of see that in the final rankings where something like Wind All Back has a pretty basic goal that it's trying to achieve. It's supposed to be cute and kind of earwormy, but that kind of limits its potential in the final evaluation process. And it's not like we have like a particular like checklist or anything. We kind of evaluate things holistically, but we do tend to prefer things that are more thematically oriented or powerful from a pure production standpoint.
I was gonna say it's interesting because there's a bit of a divide here too, because you can see the rankings for the jury and the rankings for the public vote, and they're almost flipped to an extent. And I think that's also reflected in the fact that the public nominations for this category were like things of generally established properties. So you have something for Fate, you have something for Oshinoko, stuff like that. And there's also a very interesting difference in terms of the way they approach animation as well, in terms of something like Kyofu All Back is very limited in its animation. There's a lot of repetitive stuff going on. Whereas something like Sewing Love is like, you know, just like all over the place, you know, this like insane like sakuga constantly. Everything is like moving. It's very frenetic.
Very Yuasa type.
Yeah, that kind of had that.
The biggest reason for the divide, as you pointed out, is just in terms of audiences. I mean, at the end of the day, the public vote is to a degree a popularity contest, and there are many people, I'm sure, who don't necessarily, like you guys did, go out and watch all the shorts before they vote. And if you look at something like one of our jury nominations, Night Owl, it, according to YouTube, has just over 1,000 views. And then if you compare that to something like Idol, for example, yeah, like Idol has how many views at this point?
435 million views.
Exactly.
Nearly 500 million.
Like,
insane.
So, I mean, just from a perspective, and you have this in all of the categories, but it feels like even more exacerbated in something like short, because the things that the jury tends to nominate are these, you know, indie short films or, you know, out there music videos like Raputa. And they just don't have the audience that the Vocaloid or the VTuber. Exactly.
Or like the, I guess, memification of something like Kyofu All Back or Lollikami Requiem.
Yeah, a lot of the short films that we see that are you know, for lack of a better term, more artistically like praiseworthy, if that makes sense. Like they're typically more of an art film. You will see that coming from the universities.
Yes, Tama Art University and Tokyo University of Arts.
Which is like, when you see that coming from the universities, that means that this has been released in several forms and changed and adapted. It's like, it's like being on the academic circuit of like releasing an article, because like you have a call for papers and then like 1 year and then the next year then it's finally written and the year after that it's edited and then the year after that it's released. So it's just like takes years for it to come out.
That's
so
really
I could kind of imagine that with these because a lot of these are like thesis films,
right? A lot of these are graduation works.
So it's like the idea that like you can kind of like, how is that going to get released? I think it's interesting.
I think we've gotten a substantial list of new things to watch. I definitely will be going out to watch many of these just shortly.
Better, Wilson.
But I want to thank everyone for coming by and speaking with me. It's been a great time.
Yeah,
no problem. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you for selecting me to win the award for animation. This animation took me 2.5 years to complete by myself. The techniques are mainly 2D digital and stop motion animation. Being the first animated short film, I encountered a lot of challenges, but I was able to finish it in the end. I'm very thankful to Sato Nanami, who helped me with the soundtrack, because her music made the mood of the work stronger. I'm also grateful to my teachers and friends who helped me when I was in trouble. Lastly, I'd like to thank you all again for liking it. No, our anime would like to thank you for making something so special.
泣いてるの？違うの。
I've been trying to watch more movies lately, and something I really appreciate about them is that they're often fully self-contained. You know, just looming around the corner, that resolution is coming, so you can enjoy the ride before it gets all tied up together in a neat little bow. That is what I believe gives creators the absolute freedom to tell the story they want to tell. With that being said, let's celebrate those stories. Here are your nominees for Best Movie of 2023.
もっと楽しみになるよね。ああ、そうだね。絶対そう。それで約束しようよ。
前夜の終着よ。呼び起こすは星の息吹。人と共に歩む僕。
ああ、その設定はいいよ。優しい世界じゃん。多少カオスな方がおもろいぜ。
優しい世界。
持って遊ばれてる。今度はアリスが彼を追いかけに行きそうね。いけませんよ。実は一番のライバルは先輩たちだと思っているので。
お返しモーズ。よーいドン。
And the jury winner for Movie of the Year goes to Aikatsu 10th Story Mirai no Starway. And the public winner of Movie of the Year goes to Attack on Titan Final Season, The Final Chapters.
Now, when we were doing this sort of like pre-segment recording, I was mentioning how I was a little surprised about Attack on Titan winning the public vote, and you said you were not.
Well, it's Attack on Titan.
Is that all you need to be said?
To be fair, I mean, it's also a TV special technically, but I like that people are treating it as a movie because I think it does have that cinematic quality. It does also since we're combining, I assume there's 2 installments, that one that released in March and one that released in, was it November, I think?
That is correct. Yeah.
And I like that it kind of that's in that way it kind of reminds me of End of Evangelion, where you had that movie split into 2 halves and the credits were actually in the middle of the movie. I always really enjoyed that because then you have the particular ending and you want it to end with this shot and not with the credits or something. I always love that power play. So it kind of reminded me of that in treating. I think I did watch when the second installment came out, I did watch the 2 of them together as one cohesive movie. and it was a great time in that regard.
I mean, it's also similar to End of Eva, where they both have this kind of weight of expectation, right? Like it's the end.
It's
like,
the end, yeah.
Like there, and especially with Attack on Titan, there were so many things up in the air, so many things to tie together. How do you think it stuck the landing?
I liked it. I liked it a lot. I was actually enjoying Attack on Titan more than I ever had in this last season, ever since it moved over to Mappa. And not that like Wit had done a poor job or anything, but I think it was just something about the tone with the time skip and the two design changes and something about it that I really enjoyed this last stretch of the story. And I think it ended the way I was hoping it would.
Yeah, I mean, I personally would agree with you. I think that, and to be fair, the jury is a bit more mixed on this overall. But personally, I'm kind of with you in that side where I feel like Attack on Titan kind of honed in on some of like what it's trying to say, some of the political ideas that it's, kind of touching upon. And we actually start to get to a resolution of what was built up. And I think that is a pretty cool thing that it does. I think there are like some, takes on like how well it's able to convey that. But I do think that they really kind of like honed in on like, okay, what was it going to do? And like the ending does fit what has been building, for the last couple of seasons. Like it's all very contained. So like it is satisfying as an ending on that front for sure.
I wanted to mention with something I noticed about the nominees that I did the bother to tally the thing up for 2023, trying to skip around the Chinese and Korean animated things that are on MAL. There are 53 feature-length movies that are like listed as movies on MAL from 2023. Only 12 of them had never been animated before. So like there was not a previous animated installment. And out of those 12, only 3 of them were entirely original. Like they were not based on any manga or video game or anything like that. I thought that was very interesting. Unfortunately, none of them were nominated.
That is something that we kind of ran into as well, because there was only like a certain amount of like, the amount of stuff to go through didn't seem very large, and a lot of it was like, okay, this is related to this is related to this, like a lot of like
OVA, feature like OVA type of thing.
Yep, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I thought that was interesting because that was the first thing that I noticed with this particular spread, that 8 of these were existing franchises, and 2 of them were their own kind of standalone movies.
Yeah. Now, can you explain Aikatsu to us, Cole?
So Aikatsu is a franchise, a long-running idol franchise that, has kind of finished up. It had the main Aikatsu season, which was like 178 episodes, and that started airing 10 years ago. And so now we have the 10th year anniversary that focuses on, the main characters from this show their graduation and them being grown up. And it's a really cool, and like one of the things I really like about it is how well it's able to like be a sequel and be something that's by itself, but also like be true to what it came before it. So we're not like restarting like their careers. There's no like setbacks that put them back on zero. We're taking off from where it left off and being like, yeah, this franchise is kind of over, but it's also not, because the stories will still live on with us even as they go on to their future. They're going to be continuing doing idling. It's just going to be in a different form. And so even though the show that we know and love is in the past, it can still live on through the fans, through different mediums, and that kind of thematic is something that was really good in what the show is able to encapsulate. Also, character interactions very fun. It's nice seeing them in like a different role, seeing them like grown up, and seeing like what is still consistent from the past, and like what's changed and how things change as people get older. Because that's really cool thing to see that we don't usually get to see with anime, because it's usually kind of like centered in one time and place. And so there's just a lot of cool things that it does that makes what I would personally say that makes a standalone sequel like really shine, where it's like, yes, this isn't trying to be the original, it's just trying to be something that adds on to the original that the fans can really appreciate and love. And I think it really nailed that.
So it's almost like the Attack on Titan final season of it's Aikatsu, the final chapters.
Pretty much.
I'm wondering about its production, where I've only obviously can see just the one screen cap we have on screen.
Yeah.
But how much of an elevation or a departure does it feel as it does it feel movie not to challenge it won but like I'm curious about, because I'm familiar with Aikatsu as an aesthetic, as a show. I've seen plenty of screen caps from the circles that I'm a part of. They love the show. Those people have seen it. So I'm just wondering, in terms of its visual aesthetic, does it feel like on a separate level of being like kind of movie production, or is it something more like the Precure movies, which do have this certain air and like, yeah, you can kind of tell it's a movie, but it doesn't feel that super so much of a departure from its base series?
Well, I think it's about that time. I want to thank both of you for speaking with me. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you so much.
No problem. I wish you the best. I am honored that Aikatsu 10th Story, Starway to the Future, has received the award for Movie of the Year and Best Slice of Life. Aikatsu is an anime made for children, but I am overjoyed by the love it has received from so many people, and that we were able to present all the fans with a movie to celebrate its 10th anniversary. Even as time passes, I would be extremely happy if you could remember Aikatsu with fondness every once in a while. Thank you so much, Ryuichi Kimura. Well, I think Aikatsu has reminded us that there's a child within all of us, and congratulations on your win. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, anime enthusiasts and fans from around the globe, welcome to the climax of the Reddit Anime Awards 2023. Tonight, we stand on the brink of honoring the pinnacle of anime excellence with the prestigious Anime of the Year award. This category represents the culmination of a year filled with creativity, passion, and unforgettable storytelling. Anime of the Year isn't just about popularity or hype, it's about recognizing the series that have left an indelible mark on our hearts and minds. These are the shows that have captivated us with their compelling narratives, breathtaking animation, and unforgettable characters. They have made us laugh, cry, and ponder the complexities of the human experience. So without further ado, here are your nominees for Anime of the Year.
And the winner of the jury award, Bang Dream, It's My Go. And the winner of the public award, Vinland Saga Season 2.
It is indeed your go. So this is a kind of a standard question that we always ask, but it's very easy to ask.
Fair enough.
How predictable were these? Are you surprised at all to see these rankings, these winners?
I mean, not being into the whole Reddit community as far as like our anime, Bang Dream was a bit of a surprise for me. But
it will be a surprise to our anime too.
It's one of those shows that I'm just like, okay, it's a show, but like if you're in those communities, I can see it being super popular and very well loved. It's just one of those things that I was just like, I did not expect that out of because this is Anime of the Year, so it's like out of everything that came out this year, okay, if that's what you choose, that's fine. Vinland Saga makes a lot more sense to me, but I'm also like a very huge fan of Vinland Saga, and season 2 especially has been absolutely amazing. So that's fine. But yeah, no, Bang Dream, that was the one that was just like, okay, that's a choice.
Let's talk about Vinland Saga for a second. How did you feel about the tone shift between season 1 and season 2? Because season 2, when I was watching it, I was kind of like the very first couple of episodes. I was like, okay, when is the farming gonna? He's gonna get off the farm. It's gonna, but then it ended up being really captivating, and I ended up wanting more and more farming.
So my feeling on that, I loved it, mostly because, and I don't know if this is the same mentality that everybody had. I think that some people, based on how things were presented, looked at Vinland Saga Season 2 as a traditional sequel, and I didn't view it as that. Mostly because, and if you look up like my videos on Season 1 of Vinland Saga, I very much point to Season 1 of Vinland Saga. This is a prologue. The whole Season 1, that's a prologue. And then when you jump into season 2 with that knowledge, it's less of a, this is a continuing of what's went before, and more of a, here is a different sort of aspect of the story, and everything else that we saw before this was just background. Very needed and very entertaining background to have watched season 1. But I felt like season 2 was just like, no, this is kind of a different show. And it's going to take things in a different path. So yeah, when it started off with like Farming Simulator to a bit, I would be like, oh, so many people are going to get turned off of this. This is going to suck. But I enjoyed it personally. I enjoyed it a lot personally.
Now, Stuck, how did the jury approach this sort of evolution, and did they factor in the kind of like prologue nature of the first season into the second season?
Well, we definitely noticed the tone shift, but I would not say that that was really a factor for us necessarily. There are definitely people in the jury that preferred the first season to the second season, but overall, we were just sort of judging it as it is, which is the more focused character study of Thorfinn, as well as all the ongoings on the farm and sort of this side story with Canute, which I think that a lot of us enjoyed the side story with Canute, and the sort of moments with Thorfinn where you're getting this character growth from the revenge narrative to sort of the pacifism narrative and the struggles that he has transitioning after he's lost his like subject of revenge. I think that goes a long way in his character development, and a lot of the jurors I think enjoyed that. I think that the amount of time spent on the farm was probably the biggest drawback for a lot of the jurors. There's a lot of sort of side stories going on here with some of these new characters that aren't as, they've kind of got their own thing going on, and those aren't as compelling, I think, for a lot of the jurors. And so we kind of ended up not as high on those parts, and thus the long, somewhat bloated nature kept it from outranking some of the other shows that we had available to us.
Including Mygo. Can you explain exactly what Mygo is to someone who might not know?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so this is an entry in the Bang Dream franchise, but it's largely so far disconnected from the rest of the franchise. This is something you can go into without having seen any Bang Dream. It's entirely about this new band called Mygo, and the formation of this band, which it's formed from the remnants of a different band that has broken up. So some of these characters have this history together, and then there's some other characters that are kind of jumping in and filling in the spaces that have been left behind from the previous band. It's a character drama. It's very melodramatic. It's very focused on these different characters and their relationships, and each of them kind of has these goals and aspirations that they want to achieve through working with this band, but it sort of slowly becomes more about coming together and overcoming like your struggles and your loss.
How do you feel about melodrama, Arcada?
I don't mind it. I don't mind it under particular circumstances, but in general, because melodrama is like so heavily into a lot of the idol focused shows, that tends to be a particular genre, I guess we could say, that I end up avoiding in general. It's not my go-to personally. which is weird because if you look at like the jury listing of like the top 10, Idol is very big with the jurors.
So what is it about these shows? Is it just their idleness, or is there something more to it that you decided to celebrate?
Oh, there's definitely jurors that enjoy idol shows, but like I would definitely not say that it's just because they are idol shows that they're up here. You know, several of these jurors have been jurors before. Other idol shows haven't gotten the same amount of attention. I think that each of these has elements that we highlighted and really liked. In particular, Maigo, as I talked about, was sort of the character drama. Idol 7 is actually a really interesting comparison point for Oshinoko, I feel like. Both of them kind of have some cynicism towards the idol industry in some ways. Idol 7 is a lot more positive overall. It's very focused on these idols overcoming the adversity that they face, but it also is somewhat realistic in some ways as to the sort of adversities that come with being an idol, especially as far as like what the reaction can be sometimes to fans and their comments. And then Oshinoko also sort of has this cynicism towards the idol and entertainment industries. It does sort of branch further outside of the idol industry, as our focus character Aqua is, I feel like, more focused on like acting and sort of TV and stuff, you know, ignoring the fact that he's also searching for the murderer.
Yeah, you'd forget the whole supernatural revenge plot. Now, when you're doing these evaluations for Anime of the Year, I mean, I you know, a lot of people around the world place a lot of great value in your opinion, just because you know you've been around for so long, and it's obviously that you do your research, right? I mean, you watch so much stuff, you watch everything.
I try.
Yeah, over your many years of expertise, what kind of comes into mind when you think about naming things onto that list?
Well, over time, what I've kind of come down to is this. And no matter what, you need to pick an anime of the year, because someone will always ask, even if I say, nah, none of them is. Then at the end of the day, you're like, okay, well, what's the closest to? And generally speaking, if I'm going to pick an anime of the year, it is a show that I have felt the need to finish all the way through. It is a show that I wanted to watch a new episode when it was available, whether I was watching weekly or if I was like watching them after the fact, and I just really wanted to get through them because I'm enjoying myself so much. And then once you're done the show, is it one that you want to watch again? Usually it's, I will watch this again because I'm forcing somebody else to watch it. And I need to be okay with watching it again so that I can get them through it if it's something that they might be only just so-so about or what have you. But that's generally where it is. Because it's like, if I don't want to watch it again because I don't feel like I would get entertainment about watching again, I don't feel the need to watch it with somebody else to make sure that they can watch it, then it's probably not Anime of the Year, especially if there is something like that from that year.
Well, I think with that, our conversation is coming towards an end. I want to thank both of you for coming and giving me your time. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I enjoyed coming on. Thanks for having me on.
What I really want to stress to everyone watching is that, you know, I think this list just goes to show how much variety there is in the anime space, and how there's always something in some show that has the capability to speak to you. We have a public winner, we have a jury winner, we have a ranking, but pretty much any one of these shows could have something that speaks to you. So I really highly recommend you check them out, whether that's kind of redemption of a violent past arc that's happening in Vinland Saga, or this kind of found family getting the band back together friendship that is Bang Dream Maigo. And with that, I think we have to bid everyone adieu, and I hope you've enjoyed watching. We have a real treat for everyone, and it's a first for the awards, that we've been able to reach a mangaka. Makoto Yukimura, mangaka of Vinland Saga, has sent us this message to read. This is Yukimura, the writer and artist of the Vinland Saga manga, which the anime is based on. In receiving this award, I'm once again feeling how much power the field of contemporary anime holds, and how strong it is in its ability to reach people and spread across the world. With just my manga alone, I doubt I would have been able to make as many people aware of Vinland Saga as there are today. Amidst all the anime that came out this year, thank you so much for paying attention to our work. This award is only possible thanks to the honest work of Director Yabuta and all the staff who worked on the show. I am so happy that the fruits of their serious work has been properly valued. Thank you. And to Director Yabuta and everyone on the anime staff, congratulations. I think I speak for everyone when I say congratulations to you. Yukimura Sensei. It's very rare that you come across a work so artfully put together and so affecting. Both you and all the staff on the show deserve the utmost praise.
Wakkatta. そのくらいなら